All right, welcome to the conversation where we're gonna have a doozy today. Could be, well, let's see how it goes. Briahna Joy Gray is the host of the Bad Faith podcast. She's co-host on The Rising. She's also a host on Debrief on Call-In, former National Press Secretary for Bernie Sanders in 2020. And we're gonna try to clear the air today in terms of what folks believe, what I believe, what she believes, what everybody believes. So this ought to be interesting. Briahna, welcome.
Thanks, Cenk. I appreciate you having me.
No problem. So let's keep it real right out of the gate. Some have called you the fake left, including me. Now, I'll tell you why I called you that, and then you tell me why I'm wrong, okay? So it seemed that you had an alliance, which I don't know if you still have or not, and were like-minded with other fake leftists like Jimmy Dore, Glenn Greenwald, Tulsi Gabbard. First, Tulsi Gabbard hosting Tucker Carlson's show on Friday. Do you still think that they have good intent and that they are not fake left, that they just happen to just pummel the left and agree with the right wing all the time, just coincidentally? I'm just curious what your take on that is lately.
I didn't catch it. I've never actually met or spoken to or corresponded with Tulsi Gabbard. I don't really have a relationship with her. Like a lot of people on the left, I really appreciated her standing up for Bernie in 2016. But honestly, haven't really followed her much since. So, I think part of my frustration is the characterization of me having an alliance with people that I barely think about, much less, have a relationship with. I do have a relationship with Glenn. He was my boss at The Intercept. He's been supportive of me throughout my career. I think he's obviously very bright and thoughtful. And when we agree. And I find that he's one of the best advocates for whatever it is that we agree on. When we disagree, I have him on my show and we talk about it. And I have brought up some of the criticisms to him directly that people have about whether or not he pushes back sufficiently hard. But he goes on Tucker Carlson and other similar shows. We probably will continue to disagree about how one should best handle those types of situations. But I think there's a lot of room on the left for a lot of different people advocating for a lot of overlapping interests. And I'm happy to be a part of that.
Okay, so that's an interesting answer and a good answer. And guys, let me clarify from the beginning as well that I wouldn't have Jimmy Dore on this show. I think he's a total fraud and gets all of his money from the right wing and is one of the worst people in media. But Briahna is on the show because we're gonna actually have a real conversation where we figure out what our opinions are instead of yelling at each other through other people, etc. online. So obviously I think that you might have good faith. And I'm also being honest and saying might, okay? So let's actually talk, and I've read some of your pieces, Briahna, that I totally agreed with. So let's get into what you think. I might come back to the Jimmys of the world, but I might not. But I hear you, and that's already an important clarification that you don't view it as a quote unquote alliance, whatever that means, okay?
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean by that, Cenk?
I think Jimmy is an obvious right winger now. He does these idiotic, videos about. Hold on. Let me explain. You asked the question and about how the vaccine, he's skeptical of it because he's making money off that. Earlier, he was doing pro-vaccine videos.
I wasn't asking about Jimmy. My question was about what you mean. What do you mean about me? Since we're here. I mean, I really do think you probably should have Jimmy on the show and talk to him about Jimmy. But what do you mean when you characterize me and Jimmy or me and whomever as having a quote unquote alliance?
Because in the days where he was doing forced to vote and all that nonsense, and then we had a blow up with him over things that happened here, and I saw you and Katie Halper and Glenn Greenwald and all those folks constantly supporting Jimmy, and I thought, well, that's mental. So that's what I meant by it. But you're saying you're not necessarily allied with him.
Well, Cenk,
I was going to take that at face value.
Well, I firmly believe in force the vote, and I support force the vote, as did Cornell Hedges and Crystal Ball and Kyle Kulinski and a whole lot of people on the left, a lot of members of DSA and the chapter that I used to belong to, a lot of people across the left spectrum really understood that it's really important to force the vote on various issues, to expose folks who only performatively believe in various things. And I've seen you yourself talk since then about how important it is to get people to go ahead and vote for various issues that they, as Democrats, often espouse, but at the end of the day, hide behind, whether that's parliamentarian or other kind of procedural factors to disguise the extent to which that they actually don't want to follow through on some of these policies because their donor base won't allow them to. So yes, I did and continue to believe and force the vote. It was frustrating to me that we weren't able to have a conversation at the time because it seemed like a lot of the pushback against force the vote had to do with a mistaken belief that Kevin McCarthy could be Speaker of the House, which of course was wrong and debunked and was promulgated by a lot of folks, and it could have been easily cleared up without a lot of the animus that ended up coming out of that moment. And I really appreciate that Sam Seder was willing to come on Bad Faith podcast and have a prolonged, civilized conversation about it that I think ultimately had the potential to move us all forward instead of dividing the left community.
Okay, look, I didn't do a good job of starting this conversation off on the right foot, which I wanted to, but now that we're off on the wrong foot, something you just said really got under my skin, and it's something that you've mischaracterized before. You said since then about force the vote, as if I've changed my mind. I've been challenging the Democratic establishment for 20 straight years here. So the idea that like these Johnny-come-latelys come in and go, oh my God, we had this amazing idea. What if we challenge the Democrats to have a vote? That's the oldest thing in the book, and then you guys like pretend like you came up with it. And then there's all this talk about like change politics at TYT that's mental, not supported by one shred of evidence. And you did that on your show with Jordan Sheridan. What do you mean change politics? Change politics how? What are you talking about?
And with all due respect, I'm really confused. I certainly didn't mean to take any credit away from the work that you've been doing in the left community for a very long time. So many people who listen to my show talk about how they were onboarded to the left because of watching shows like TYT, which at the time were, really unique in the bread tube space, really defined what it means to be a leftist on YouTube. So I don't think this should be a conversation about who gets credit for what. For me personally, I didn't care who came up with force the vote. I actually heard of the idea first from watching Sam Seder's show. And he mentioned that there was an idea that he thought was a good idea that came from Jimmy Dore. And that's what perked my ears up because I knew that there was some friction there between those two. And I thought, wow, if Sam is willing to say this about an idea that he heard about from Jimmy Dore, which of course Jimmy Dore didn't invent either. And he says this very openly, that he got it from the DSA, that it was a tactic that was listed in the 2019 DSA kind of strategic document. And of course, like in the context of force the vote, we always talked about how this was a model that was used by suffragettes rather, in the early part of the last century, that having people vote on bills, even as they were voted down, really ginned up a lot of public interest in women's equality and those kinds of things. So yeah, I certainly don't think we as a left community should be talking about credit or who's first or anything like that. I think the goal should be for us to come together and try to figure out the best way strategically to go forward. But it's difficult to do that when people are so bogged down in their interpersonal animuses. And that's part of why I wanted to come here today to really talk about why it is that there seems to be so much negative energy.
Yeah, but we
I have been chomping at the bit to do this story since Sunday because my kids started to get sick on Sunday. And so we bumped our Sunday show up from the evening to the afternoon, thinking in case his fever spiked overnight, I would just be kind of available. But then as soon as we signed off on our Sunday show, so this would have been almost a week ago, it was announced that the Cornel West campaign hired Peter Daou as its campaign manager. Cornel tweets out, "I'm so very blessed to have my dear brother Peter Daou as my campaign manager. I welcome him to our campaign and movement. We will work together for truth and justice." Here's the announcement they put out. We don't have to Read the whole thing here. Presidential candidate Cornel West today welcomed Peter Daou to his presidential campaign in the role of campaign manager. A respected activist, advisor, writer, and musician, Daou has more than 20 years of national political experience and was described by the New York Times as one of the most prominent political bloggers in the nation. He has advised major progressive organizations and has held senior positions in several Democratic presidential campaigns. Daou has been an independent since 2020 and supported the Green Party in the 2020 election. Howie Hawkins, yes. Before entering the political arena, Daou was a prolific keyboardist and remixer, appearing on recordings by artists including Miles Davis, Diana Ross, Janet Jackson, and Mariah Carey. He says it's an honor to be a part of Dr. West's historic campaign for president. Dr. West is a man of deep personal integrity, great accomplishment, and far-reaching vision. Okay, so as we all know, and look, we all know who Peter Daou is. I could have, brought up a million tweets of his through the 2016 cycle and after. One of the most militant, vicious Hillary Clinton, David Brock junkyard dogs. Just a profound bone-deep hatred of the Bernie campaign and the Bernie movement and the Green Party as well at the time. Here's just this kind of sums it up. 26 years in Congress for Bernie is establishment. Doesn't mean he's bad, but first woman POTUS is not establishment. So there he is making the argument. Hillary Clinton was the anti-establishment choice in 2016 because she's a woman. Right.
Nice. Love
exactly. Yeah. Tonally, that's one of the more benign bangers that he fired off in that cycle. But that kind of reflects just, how shallow a guy he was at the time. Now, sorry, I don't mean to jump the gun here. So anyway, we all know, I don't have to bring up all the screenshots of the different tweets. Obviously, CJ said, that's it, I'm done with the Cornel campaign. He got a lot of pushback for this move. And so Jill Stein thought it necessary to make known that it was she who recruited Peter Daou into the campaign because she was serving as Cornel's interim campaign manager when he was first getting started. And then she took it upon herself to hire the more official long-term staff. So she says, newsflash, it was me that brought Peter Daou to Cornel West. Why? Because I learned how essential an experienced campaign manager is for my campaigns without one. He's the most experienced campaign manager I know of with independent green politics and strong opposition to duopoly. Now, here's where it gets even. This is the worst one, and we'll come back to this in a moment. Though I didn't know of Peter Daou in his days as DNC defender, it's not hard to see how a war-torn, bloody childhood led to fierce opposition to Bush and bondage to the Dem Party. If only more liberal apologists would have this kind of wake-up. With an experienced campaign manager, our team can give Cornel West the support he needs to break the duopoly and give all those thrown under the bus reason to fight back. So you're telling me that you didn't know of him in his days as a DNC defender?
She's lying. In my opinion, she's lying.
That has to be a lie.
She's
that
lying.
Just has to be a lie. And at worst, that is just insane negligence and incompetence. So what are you saying? You don't vet the campaign manager? Is that basically what you're saying?
Well, people are trying to justify it by saying that she didn't know him then, and she knows him now, so maybe she's vetted him now, but she's saying she wasn't aware of him at that time. I think she's lying. You have to be lying. He led the smear campaign against you. He was, as you just said, one of the most vicious attack dolls. Dude worked hand in hand with David Brock for years. He is the guy that came up with Bernie Bros, and Bernie's a Russian agent, and Bernie's a sexist, and all of his supporters are sexist, and all of those smears that happened in the 2015, 2016 campaign, all the smears against Jill Stein about how she's responsible for Donald Trump, all of that stuff, that was Peter Daou. That was Peter Daou. That's who he was. You're telling me you didn't know who he was? I have a very difficult time believing that.
Yeah, it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to think that she didn't know.
Everybody
and if she
knew.
Didn't know of him then she's obviously not aware of just how divisive a choice this is now.
Yes.
Like, it kind of goes hand in hand. Like, you want to say, okay, you vetted him now in retrospect. Well, if you really looked into it, you'd have known that this guy is just too toxic to put in charge of the campaign. Whether you think his transformation is legitimate
And
or
I hope
not,
it is.
I'm all about redemption and second chances. That's almost besides the point.
Yeah.
The point is, that even getting this guy involved with the campaign is going to drive a wedge right through whatever coalition Cornel West is trying to build.
Yes.
To put him in charge of the campaign.
He spent years. The Cornel West base would be Bernie's supporters, right? That's like the people. That's the base of. And this guy spent years trashing those people. I mean, to the highest degrees. An entire smear campaign that lasted for years. 4 years, not just the 2015, 2016 campaign. He continued to trash people for years following that. And this is the guy that you chose to put in charge of Cornel West campaign. You have just divided your base in half, and you have created such a major distraction. Look, since this has been announced, nobody's talking about Cornel West policies. They're talking about Peter Daou. And that is such a monumental political miscalculation. It is, it's ridiculous. The idea that anybody thought that this was, we need an experienced campaign. You need, first of all, he's never won a campaign.
He's
a
been loser.
On lots of them.
John
he's
Kerry,
never won.
Hillary Clinton, Marianne
Even
Williamson.
Progressives, the little he's never won, not one single time. You need an experienced campaign manager who's never won and has an incredibly divisive history. Tell me how that makes sense. It doesn't.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely absurd. Also, he started this cycle as campaign manager for Marianne Williamson,
yes,
which is a Democratic campaign.
After swearing off Democrats.
Right. After swearing off Democrats, a Democrat campaign, a pro-NATO campaign, a pro-World War III campaign. Her position on the Russia-Ukraine war is pretty much identical to Joe Biden's. And so if this guy's convictions are so deeply held, why did he take a job with the Marianne Williamson campaign at the start of this cycle? If one of the main pillars of Cornel's campaign is disband NATO, then why are you recruiting this guy who was just, as of a few weeks ago, on the Marianne campaign? Makes no sense. So then Cornel apparently wants to vouch for her. So he says, serious revolution. Are you recruiting this guy who was just, as of a few weeks ago, on the Marianne campaign? Makes no sense. So then Cornel apparently wants to vouch for her. So he says, serious revolutionaries keeps the focus on suffering and struggling of everyday people who fight against empire capitalism, white supremacy, male supremacy, homophobia, transphobia. Superficial ones cater to their individual careers, market opportunities, and personal polemics that bring attention only to themselves.
That second part, he just described Peter Daou's entire career. That second part.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was Peter Daou.
I think he was directing that at Jimmy Dore, it seems like, right?
100%.
I mean, that seems like a pretty targeted swipe there.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. That does describe Daou in a nutshell. Number one. Number two, serious revolutionaries keep the focus. Serious revolutionaries are very protective of their movement. They don't allow shady characters in. This would be like Che Guevara going to Fidel Castro being like, hey, I found this new general. Didn't his father used to own one of those tobacco plantations? Yeah, but that was a few years ago. He seems cool now, right? Like I think he's good. I checked him out, right? So like this just, I mean, it's just insane. Serious revolutionary, a serious presidential campaign vets their campaign manager. They vet the campaign manager. And you could say, oh, you did some research on him. You didn't know him back then. And now you know. You clearly do not understand the seriousness of just how divisive a pick like this is. To put him in charge of the campaign is just nonsense. And it's really another heartbreaker because, look, Cornel West, there was a poll that came out just now in Iowa, has him pulling at 5 points in Iowa. And that's great. And look, I wish the campaign well, but I'm not at a point now or I can advise people to get invested in this. How can I vouch for a campaign that is so reckless at worst and reckless at best and dishonest at worst about who?
Welcome
that's
to
good. Shut that guy up. I don't know who he is.
welcome
Enough
to
of that
another
guy.
edition of the Post-Duopoly Show, a slimmed down version of the Post-Duopoly Show. We got one rep from each of the camps. I'm representing RBN. We got Kit representing Heartlands Media, and we got Keaton representing Due Dissidence. What's up, fellas? How you guys doing?
How you guys doing? Doing great.
Oh, you're
Kit, you're
muted. Kit. Go ahead.
You're still muted, Kid.
Sorry. First of
There you
all,
go.
Keaton, I hope all is well with you, man. And seriously,
Yeah.
it's good to see you here, man. And all the best to your family as well, brother.
Thank you. I
Yes.
appreciate that,
I
my
second
friends.
that. Second that.
Thank you.
No problem. Well,
They're doing all right. They're doing good. We got some follow-up appointments that we got to get them to make sure all is okay with the tickers. But so far, knock on
Yeah.
wood, so good. Yeah.
Good, as it should be, So I'm feeling enraged and depressed and angry. Look, after seeing your report and so many other people's coverage on the Peter Daou situation, because I'm pretty sure we're going to be talking about that too. Even I'm having a hard time saying, hey guys, get invested with Dr. Cornel West campaign because the fox is in the hen house. What could possibly go wrong? I see this campaign becoming mediocre and milquetoast at best. And this is no disrespect to Dr. Cornel West. I do respect his work and his words. It's just, Jesus, of all the people, you could have just brought in a new person, somebody who maybe just got started in the game, not a 3-time loser, 4-time loser. What were you thinking? What were you thinking? That's my intro. Sorry, Keaton, go ahead.
No, that's a good intro because I do want to talk about Peter Daou. So welcome to Keaton also, and also comment, give your initial thoughts. I know it was kind of said in that video, but you can have a refresher, and we're gonna discuss in our intro because we hadn't had a chance. We haven't been together. It's been kind of wonky the last couple of times.
Agreed.
So I was interested in getting a short little conversation about Peter Daou now being the campaign manager. We've all done our individual sort of content. So let's come together and discuss this. So Keaton, how's it going? And also your first initial comments on the pick by the Cornel West camp.
It's going okay, friends. Great to see you all again. Yeah, my take is very much in line with what Nick said to Marianne when you guys interviewed her, several months back now. He asked, look, if the working people of the progressive movement burned $100 million on the Bernie Sanders campaign, why should we invest in your campaign? And one of the reasons why I thought that was such a great question is because of the place it was coming from in terms of the perspective of the people who are going to fuel the actual movement, or in this case, the Cornel campaign. And so the same fundamental question applies here. It's not that I don't have respect and admiration for the man himself, but it's a question of, can I direct my audience to invest in the campaign? In order for me to tell people to invest in the campaign, I have to trust that their investment is in good hands with the campaign. And as you guys just watched in that video, to have Cornel seemingly completely checked out of these processes altogether. I mean, by the campaign's own admission, Cornel didn't have anything to do with bringing in Daou. He left that to Jill Stein, who then brings in Peter Daou and then says, I wasn't aware of him during the 2016 campaign. I didn't know who he was at the time, which seems like bullshit, if I'm being completely honest. But at best, I have to ask, well, where the hell were you? Like, where were you? Everybody in this space knew who he was at the time. And you supposedly vetted him after the fact, right? You vetted him before you hired him, right? So if you vetted him before you hired him, then didn't you know how divisive this was going to be? Even if you believe all the best about Peter Daou. And look, I believe in second chances. I believe in redemption, all of that. I do believe Peter Daou has soured on the establishment Democratic Party. I believe that because people don't leave the two-party system for the money. They don't. There's a lot of money in the two-party system. A lot. I know people who have fundraised inside the Democratic Party. The gig flow is amazing. It's one on top of another on top of another, and they all pay very well. So you don't ostracize yourself from that ecosystem for the money. So fair enough. Let's say he's had a change of heart and he's soured on the Democrats. All right, even if we buy all that, which for argument's sake, I'll say I buy all of it, you still have to anticipate how divisive a pick this is going to be. Because even if you buy it, even if you give him the benefit of the doubt, you know half of your coalition is not going to, which means he's too toxic a pick, which means you cannot put him in charge of the thing. And the fact that she did just shows a lack of political awareness on the part of the campaign. That's what Nico House said in an interview with Craig Pasta-Jardula recently. He said Cornell's campaign just shows a lack of awareness, a lack of direction, a lack of precision, a lack of strategy, to the point where I don't feel working people's dollars and volunteer hours are in good hands with the campaign, because I don't sense that there's a real urgency, a real clarity of purpose and mission at the top. So that's kind of where I am now.
It feels...
I wish the campaign well. I really hope he does well.
Yeah,
I don't wish the campaign harm at all. But at this time, I just can't direct people to invest it. I feel like I couldn't in good conscience tell people, oh yeah, write $100 check to the Cornell West campaign. They'll put it to great use. I can't say that at all.
100% spot on with Keenan's analysis. Look, I've been rereading The Prince and the Discourses. I have a book with both Machiavelli's work all put together in there. And I've been thinking about what Dr. West was doing. And the thing is, if he wasn't truly engaged in the decision-making and Jill Stein wasn't aware, that tells me as commanders or as chieftains that they are unaware of what's happening in the environment around them and just how important it is for a third-party movement to happen. I can't tell the audience, your audience, Keaton's audience, my audience, anybody to really get invested in this campaign if you are going to associate yourself with somebody who did everything he could to discredit progressives, Bernie Sanders supporters, and Green Party people. I'm pretty sure all of us have heard the stories in Philly. In my experience, Daniel Lupker and I, we were there in Philly. We were there in the Wells Fargo Center on the last day when Hillary Clinton was named the nominee. And I saw violence. I saw Bernie Sanders supporters getting attacked, spit on. I saw what happened to Green Party supporters being attacked. I spoke to Bernie Sanders delegates on how they were assaulted, and that's all I could say, or how they were stalked or threatened or got threatening phone calls. Was Peter Daou in that room when the decision was made to harass these people? Was Peter Daou aware of what was happening to Bernie Sanders delegates? Did Peter Daou give the green light to that? I don't know. I could speculate, but all their stories were the same. And afterwards, there was an onslaught of attack towards us and anyone that wanted to be an independent thinker. Dr. Jill Stein, Dr. Cornell West, you both are incredibly smart academic intellectuals that I can look up to. And I could say, hey, you're a power level above me. But in regards to vetting people, I question their judgment thoroughly. All right. Now, if people want to still support Dr. Cornell West, that's their power. But knowing that there's a UAW strike and they chose to go to a climate environmentalist rally is a big question, right? And I understand, hey, we're only on this one planet, but a worker strike seems to elevate it more because, again, this election, it's not going to be about identity. And I understand social issues, social identity is important, but at the end of the day, I think we all can agree it's always going to be about the dollars. People are people, and we're going to care about dollars. I don't care where you stand. It's always going to be about the money. And the thing is, what I'm concerned about is Dr. West is not going to be fully engaged because Peter Daou is going to be advising him to fall off a cliff. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be so wrong, and I want to apologize on this network and every other network, say, hey, I was wrong. But for some reason, in the back of my mind, I see it playing out, and I just can't tell people, hey, let's vote for Dr. Cornell West, because I just, if Peter Daou is his campaign manager, his general, I don't think he can achieve absolute victory. And I invite him to be on your show, on Keaton's show, on my show, to maybe prove us wrong. but I have serious doubts in his ability. And plus, a campaign manager needs to be in the shadows, not on the front lines. And he tweeted himself out like, hey, this is a big day for me. No, baby, you have to be in the sidelines, in the shadows. It's all about Wes, not about you.
And so what I have, so Dr. West and Dr. Stein, they're both people that I would say I looked up to, and they're both I would consider friends. We've had them both on the network many times. We're gonna have both of them on a network in the future. And nothing that I would not say directly to them. I think both of them know that. I've had conversations with them, frankly, about things, and I think they know that. I'm not sure. The way I would describe what both of you are kind of describing, one of you used checked out. I would describe this as this is a blind spot because of their professional managerial class, or this is a blind spot because they are so distant from the actual people, the actual people invested in participating, not issues. You can be invested in issues and doing that things, but are you invested in understanding the people who you want to participate?
Right.
There's no level of understanding about that.
True.
There's none. And it speaks to the professional managerial class. And this is what I said in my individual video, is that it feels like no one else is in this thought roundtable of this campaign, but people from the professional managerial class. It doesn't feel like the decisions, like people who are distant from the conversations, political conversations of the peoples, of voters. Like I would say we are some of the closer to the actual voters on the ground. Those are the people in our audiences, in our chats, right?
Right.
So we are hearing directly, we getting a direct influence of, no, Peter Daou, this is terrible. You get what I'm saying? Like we're getting a direct influence of this. And it's not even specifically, even before the Marianne Williamson campaign, just little things would conjure up people's thoughts about Peter Daou. You would see a tweet here and a video there, you know what I mean? And it was the same sort of reaction. It feels like, and it's not an age thing. It could be age, but it's not an age thing. It feels like they are disconnected. You know what I mean? Like somebody else runs their Twitter. They're not on Twitter seeing the conversations. You get what I'm saying?
I hear you.
It's a different sort of understanding of what happened. And then the other thing why I say the critique of the professional managerial class, because you have to understand people who view academics, who view accomplishments, who view reaching things. They would put the accolades of Peter Daou above the reaction. You get what I'm saying? Because a person in that class would think, well, yeah, you're gonna be pissed, but get over it. Look at his background. You know what I mean? It's a sort of blind spot that you could have if you don't have anybody but professional managerial class people in the room. That's not something they would ever think of, because if nobody in this conversation about Peter Daou, not a single person stood up and said, are we out of our fucking mind? If nobody said that, then something's wrong. You get what I'm saying? There has to, tell me about the conversation. Who gave the pushback? If nobody was doing that, then something is wrong here. And you have an echo chamber in your circle here. And go ahead, whoever wanted to.
I wanted to say, I just want to say this, and I'll hand it over to you, Keen, because I'll make it short and simple. But in all of this decision making, I just got to ask, where the goddamn hell was Chris Hedges at, and why is he radio silent? Is there anything he wants to add to this? Because I know he can't feign ignorance. Chris Hedges has no excuse to feign ignorance on Peter Daou and what happened in 2016. Because again, with the announcement of Peter Daou, I had flashbacks of when I first went to Philly. I was green. I didn't know what I was doing, but I remember what I saw. And I remember what was happening to Bernie Sanders supporters and delegates and volunteers. Where's Chris Hedges at? What are your thoughts, Chris Hedges? You brought Dr. West into the Green Party. Jill Stein was the interim campaign manager at the time. Was there any thought of what the hell, Peter Daou, a three-time, four-time loser? Go ahead, take it away, Keaton. That's all I got to say. Where's Chris Hedges? Where's Chris Hedges?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question. And I think another point, just to build on what you guys are saying, where is the evidence of this great expertise that Peter Daou brings? Like, oh, yeah, no, he was a scumbag, but he's an effective scumbag, right? He knows how to run a campaign. I don't see any evidence of that whatsoever. I never have. Cornell spoke at that climate march in New York the other day. Where's the video of the full speech? Is that anywhere? I haven't seen it. I've seen bits and pieces. Peter Daou tweeted out a clip of it that's 1 minute and 6 seconds, which he shot from his phone. Cornell retweeted that. It's the last minute of the speech in which Cornel West, despite saying some really great things, I love the spirit of that speech. You know what he didn't mention in that speech? That he's running for president of the United States.
Thank you.
You're on stage at the climate march. It has tens of thousands of people there. You're given a speech, the message of which I think we can all agree was great. I mean, I love a lot of what Cornell has to say. At the end, what does he say? Here, I mean, I don't know. We could pull the video, CJ. I could show it. But he starts, he ends the speech by saying, here, I'll get it on my phone. I'm sorry. Bear with me, folks. A love supreme. Love supreme, a love supreme. Okay, that's wonderful. I'm Cornel West. I'm running for president of the United States under the Green Party ticket, and you should vote for me.
Yeah.
He didn't bother saying that? So the Daou, who was there with him that day, experienced campaigner that he is. Oh, he's a pro. Yeah, we have to forgive him for all of his sins because he's a pro. He doesn't say, hey, Cornell, at the end of your speech, why don't you remind the crowd that you're running for president? No? Where's the video of the speech? No, we have cell phone footage. This guy's not an expert in shit. This guy is useless. I'm sorry, there's no evidence whatsoever that this guy is a professional and a skilled operative. He was a troll. He was a paid hatchet man, low-life troll in 2016. He's been that ever since. And there's no evidence whatsoever that he brings any great talent or skill set to the table that would even begin to compensate for his record of absolute treachery. So I'm just not seeing any evidence of it. None.
I think this is a pit of desperation. The campaign is clearly desperate to pick someone because this is what I wrote down. Because this is a contradiction. How do you say you know enough about him in the tweet? You know enough to know he's all his green background, his pro, but you don't know nothing else that was just 4 years ago? That was just 5 years ago, 6 years ago? Like that it doesn't fly. This is the reason why I say, we can't imagine somebody being this checked out on this level. I'm not saying checked out of policy. So something is happening in Iraq. You have an opinion. Something is happening in Ukraine. They are abreast of that. But what's happening in the conversations about the people, they don't have any idea what's going on. And to me, it's shown in deciding to go with the People's Party, and then you get embarrassed on these corporate media channels, and you have no idea what's going on. You have no idea. He's embarrassed in like 3 interviews.
Yeah, there's no
They're asking him like, you don't know about the People's Party? He has
nobody's
no
home. Nobody's home. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like you can't hire a cameraman for $100 to film his speech, so you have an official video of his speech at the climate march with 1,000 people in the audience. You don't have $100. You don't have a Green Party volunteer in New York State, where the Green Party probably has more volunteers than it does anywhere else in the country. Yeah. You don't have a volunteer with a fucking video camera who can mic them up so you can get a clean shot of the speech. We don't even get that from experienced Peter Daou.
Can I also add on here too? Look, I'm just gonna say something pretty controversial here, but this is how I view it because I believe in third parties, or at least I still do. But maybe Roger Meadows, not maybe, yes, Roger Meadows is correct. Abolish all political parties. But I interviewed 2 people who are running for the Libertarian nomination, and both their answers in regards to how to get 5% and above, and afterwards the general election, seem more coherent than anything that Peter Daou has given. Okay, that's Oliver Chase and Lars Mapstead. They're both running for the Libertarian Party. Shout out to Larry Sharp, who got them both on my show. They had a much more better idea, and I don't know who their campaign managers are. They're still running for the nomination, but they were able to give me answers I wanted to hear in regards to how to build up their third party. So if the Libertarians are steps ahead of Peter Daou, this shows me, in my personal opinion, where Dr. Cornel West and the Green Party are going. And I want Dr. Cornel West and the Green Party to succeed. But if your general, your campaign manager, as again, Keenan, as you brought out, can't hire a camera guy, can't hire somebody to mic him up.
We get a partial version of the speech filmed off this fucking
at least
asshole's
give me
phone.
a 5-minute speech.
Right, yeah, exactly,
5
yeah.
minutes. 5 minutes. Bare minimum.
I
what the
covered
hell?
that yesterday, and I thought I just couldn't find it, so it doesn't exist.
Well,
I
if
just
you
might
can
literally
find
said
it, it may
this-
as well not exist. Why isn't it on Peter Dow's
Right.
feed? Why isn't
hasn't
it
been
on
put
Cornel
out?
West feed?
Yeah.
All we have on either of their feeds is a 1-and-6-second video from Peter Dow's phone. What, he didn't take the whole thing on his phone? This is the great experience, Peter Dow?
Or where's the
I mean,
live stream
what
of
a
the full
joke.
event?
What a
Wait.
joke.
Where's the full live
Maybe
stream
they're
event?
waiting to introduce it at a commercial. Maybe they're gonna put it as part of an ad, and they're waiting to introduce it there. I'm trying.
I
to
will
give it
happily
something.
retract my statement if and when
So
that day
will I.
comes. Yeah.
So will I. I'll gladly
I'm
apologize.
not holding my breath for it.
Yeah.
You know,
And again, we all want this to succeed. Like, for
Yeah.
example, in a perfect world, I think I can speak for both of you. Tomorrow they will say, because of the backlash, we are now have gotten rid of Peter Dow. They will add a little part in there like, P.S. he is a son of a bitch, after we researched him or something like that, you know. And then we are on a hunt for another campaign manager. Stand by. That would be
great.
invigorating to this campaign. That is literally like, I mean, it feels like the last week, more than week, like right before maybe it was the Jimmy Dore thing, and then just one thing after another. It just hasn't been.
Well, I'm glad you
the
brought
best
the Jimmy
week and a
Dore thing.
half. Go ahead.
I'm glad you brought the Jimmy Dore interview, because here's the thing. At least for all intents and purposes, from the interview that Peter Daou did with Sabrina, apparently he was in talks with Dr. Cornel West and Jill Stein before West got onto the Jimmy Dore show. So I'm wondering just how deep that relationship was, or the conversation that was happening back and forth. Because again, Keaton, you and Russell did a fantastic breakdown of Peter Daou, especially when he was with the Marianne Williamson campaign, because he had to drop out because of personal family issues. And that was 4 months ago. What the hell happened between then and now? So I have a lot of questions. How long has Peter Daou been talking to Dr. Cornel West? Was he truly advising him before the big announcement, or what? Because there's so many questions. And I think we all deserve answers. And I reached out to Dr. West. I was supposed to have him on sometime mid-September. Haven't heard anything. I even sent an email out to Dr. Jill Stein, because on the 29th.
I thought you had West on not too long ago. Didn't you just have him on not too long ago?
No. I only had him on once, like a few months ago. But it's, I did reach out to see if maybe we could have him on in September. And then for Jill Stein, the last email I got, like, she was open for the 29th. So I could have her on the show. But I sent an email just to confirm, kind of radio silence. And I'm just wondering, are we going to get a cold shoulder? I hope that's not the case.
No, maybe they're trying to. I'm trying to look in the bright side. Maybe they're trying to just wrangle the campaign, people who are part of the campaign, and talk about different strategies. Like, since they have a campaign manager, maybe they're trying to like really get this thing professionalized in a sense of a real well-oiled machine. So I'm hoping that could be it, Kit, and it's just
I hope so
takes
too.
a little while to get back, because again, none of us, if they got rid of Peter Daou tomorrow and hired somebody else, there will be a lot of people that will be happy and back to at least saying, I'm open to supporting the campaign. That would just, it just turns off so many people. It just doesn't make any sense unless you are that disconnected from what's going on. That's why I said it just doesn't make any sense. Here's a super chat. Let's see. This is about Peter Daou. This one said, oops. Wait. That's terrible. Peter fails downward, not upward. Simple as. Okay, so here's another one, Daou. Thank you for that super chat, by the way. This account is pinned in review. This one says, Daou said he compromised his principles to elect the first woman president. I bet he changed because he changes when he thinks he should. I question his judgment and decision making and Dr. Wes's. And I mean, I just get a very car salesy vibe from him. Even in the latest interview with Sabby, he was clearly trying to divert and not trying to answer questions. Like he wasn't really there to really squash what people thought. He's still making excuses, still denying some of the things like he's done. Like it really did not help. It really did not help the situation. It didn't help at all. The argument to say, hey, he's changed. If he went on to say, I've changed and let me show people I have, that's absolutely not how I walked away from the conversation. So we can wrap the Peter Daou, unless either one of you had any other words to say about him. We can wrap the Peter Daou conversation and move on to the big event. Yeah, we can move on to the big event. Actually, there's one more super chat I didn't put up. Let me put this one up here.
No, Russell unsubscribe. Yeah, Jimmy says that. Russell's in Greece right now. Russell's gonna be. Yeah,
wow.
He is going to be on our show tomorrow. We have a stream tomorrow at 8 o'clock, and he will be logging in as long as the internet cooperates. He will be co-hosting from around the world tomorrow.
Very good. Very good.
Oh, that is going to be awesome. How far? What's the time difference again?
7 hours. So he does, I mean, he did one because he was in Italy a couple weeks back, and we did one where he just wakes up in the middle of the night and does it. You know, it's kind of a pain in the ass for him, but it's at least out of the way. It is dedication, absolutely. But it's also kind of out of the way because it's in the middle of the night. So all he's got to do is wake up and drink some coffee and do it.
I feel good. All right, so a couple of things. Let me do a couple of announcements. I don't know if you guys have seen our merch.
You're muted, brother.
Your sound cut out, CJ.
Yeah, CJ, your sound cut out. And so people can't hear you. Don't worry, the sound will come back very soon.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you, CJ.
Can't hear you. I'm sorry, dude.
Maybe the mic got disconnected.
It could be. All right, so let's filibuster. So while we are waiting, hey, be sure to check out RBN. Be sure to check out Due Dissidents. We all, and also Hardlands Media. Yes, we all have merch. We all have patrons, and we all do some great content work and so much more. So check out Due Dissidents. Check out Revolutionary Blackout Network and Hardlands Media. We all have individual websites with merch stores, patron, and so much more. If you support independent media and free speech, help us out. Plus, Hardlands Media will be covering the DNC convention in Chicago, and we're more than happy to collaborate with all of our colleagues in independent media.
Perfect.
Yes.
There you go.
All right.
Good job.
Yes.
Nicely done.
I'm the best at this gig.
Mr.
Put me
Cabello.
again, coach. I'm ready.
So there's a couple of things. My mic has a short, but that wasn't it this time. I also have an issue with my laptop. So I do have a fundraiser to get another laptop. I haven't been shouting it out. Maybe I'll shout it out now. But that's
probably get on that. Yeah.
Do that now.
Yeah, my laptop is really going haywire. It's probably going to eventually clunk out completely. But I'll shout it out in a little bit. But I'm back, and let's get to what I wanted to show. And this is what I was saying right when I got cut off, is that I wanted to shout out a couple of announcements before we get into the first thing. And then I also said, and this is where you got cut off, I want to show you guys our merchandise. It's pretty cool. I don't know if you had a chance
looks great
to see it. So I want to bring it up and show not only you guys, but everybody here. So if you go to our website, and you click on the RBN merch little hyperlink, it'll take you here. We got mugs, we got tote bags, even gift cards. That's pretty cool. I didn't even know that ahead of time. But let's go down to some of the clothing. So you can see some of the, now it's about, I think there's 8 or 9 designs, and it's the same designs that's on its tote bag. So you can all get matching. So if you wanted like the RBN logo and you wanted a tote bag along with a mug, along with a shirt, a tank, you can get all of that with the same logo. And I think there's different, there's like 9 different imaging. This is by far what everybody's been talking about is the NATO one. I think
I like
it's up there.
The NATO one is great. And I like
Which one did you like though?
I like that you offer it in wife beater form too. Because I saw
more
the
of a
hoodie,
tank
but
top.
I didn't see the wife beater.
Yeah, it's more of a tank top. Let's call it.
okay.
It's more of a tank top. Yeah, it's more of a tank top than what we would call than the old name. Yeah, but yeah, so we offer it all, and then we're gonna add hats. We're gonna add buttons.
Good.
And if we have any other good suggestions that people really, want to see, of course we'll do something like that. Of course, we got the unserious, completely unserious. That's Nick's little saying, and then we got the class warfare is needed one, and of course abolish police. Let's click on that one. You can see the different colors of this one. This is one. I'm trying to show a different one each time I stream. You can see that's in like powder blue, and then that's in a yellow. So check out our website. You can see all of this that I'm showing you right now. And I'll scroll our URL down at the bottom, but it's our full name, Revolutionary Blackout Network. And you'll get to that. So that was what I wanted to shout out. We are very excited, guys. We've been working on trying to get merchandise, narrow down what we want to do in merchandise for over a year. So to finally get this off the ground is very satisfying. But let's get to the main event. We're just approaching 500 people watching. Let's everybody hit that like button. The target is 400 likes. Let's see if we can get to 400 likes. And sorry to bring Cenk back to the stage here. No. If you've been watching the entire time, you saw it in the pre-show videos that we show. But now let's go to the more recent exchange between Briahna and Cenk. And both of you have covered this on your show, correct?
Yes.
We're covering it tomorrow, but
you're covering it tomorrow.
Yeah, we haven't been live since this surface, but yes,
since that last time. Okay. So what I'm going to give all of us kind of a chance to preface, and you may have covered everything, but I'm sure you've watched it. To just give a preface of it, it feels to me like there was a lot of residual anger or emotion from the previous conversation the two had. When Bree came on to TYT after Cenk had called her a fake leftist, and then she was like, "Why would you call me that?" And she got her feelings hurt a little bit. And he said, "Hey, come on the show." And they kind of had a conversation and was very contentious. I remember putting the actual video on Twitter and calling Cenk big baby bitch or something like that. And it went viral. It was like 1,400 likes on the video. I tagged him. It was so many comments on there. But again, what is your sort of preface to this video before we get started? We'll start with Keaton and then go to Kit.
Well, Cenk makes Kyle look like he's red-pilled. I mean, Cenk says, "I promise you, we're going to win these primaries. We're going to start winning these primaries." Your candidate, because Cenk is a Marianne guy to the extent that he's invested.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he's not an RFK guy. He said in this piece here, he said Marianne's by far the best of the 3 in the running now for the Democratic nomination. Your candidate's losing like 71-5 against the closest thing to an actual corpse that will ever run for president. And you're here promising, "Oh, don't worry, we're getting close. We're going to start winning these primaries." Nonsense. I mean, there's absolutely zero evidence for that. And so the level of gaslighting on his part in terms of what his actual strategy is worse than Kyle. At least Kyle's starting to bend the knee and get real with his audience that they're going to have to vote for Joe Biden. Cenk is still out here saying, "No, we're getting closer. We're marching the ball down the field and we're going to start winning. Don't you worry." It's absolutely
What?
ludicrous. It's absolutely. I mean, he doesn't say Marianne's going to win this time, but he says in the interview, he says,
Oh.
we're going to start winning these primaries, I promise. What evidence is there to show any of that? You're losing ground rapidly, not gaining ground. And it's because of the composition of the Democratic Party, not just on the leadership side, but on the voter side. The Democratic electorate does not want revolutionary figures inside it. It's a counter-revolutionary party. That's what Jill Stein has said, and she's absolutely right about that. If that helps get you back on her good side, CJ, I'm happy to put in a good word for her now in this segment.
I think she's pretty fair-handed. I think
I'm
knows
joking.
a critique and be fair.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think she'd be like that.
Absolutely. I'm just messing around. But that point remains, and Cenk, has this book out that he apparently started advertising like 2 years ago. It's finally out. And just like Ryan Grimm has a book coming out on the Squad in time for Christmas, I mean, these books are 4 years too late. It's just absurd that you have these guys running around trying to sell this narrative at this point, but here they are, and I guess we'll take a look in a few minutes.
Look, what I saw here is a man who's trying to fight to keep himself relevant in a political environment that has moved on without him. He had the audacity to say that there was no election fraud that took place during the 2016 primary. He had the audacity to keep on saying that Jimmy Dore is being unhinged or crazy or foaming at the mouth, even though I remember forced to vote. He has the audacity to still promote Justice Democrats, even though they're the ones that kicked him out of the organization that he created, which I found to be wrong for them to do in the first place. He has, again, this inability to see the bigger picture that no one is believing in this idea of a progressive running a Democratic primary. I mean, look, again, Keaton, to do dissidents credit, you guys brought up the fact that Marianne Williamson's campaign is nothing more than a glorified book tour. The evidence is out there. I saw the video that you guys did. It's all out there. We cannot ignore it. Plus, her history of abusing her staff. It's out there. Everybody in the audience can do their own research. That's right. Controversial statement. Do your own research and you'll see it. The evidence is there. And this book, Justice is Coming. No, it's not. When there was, again, election fraud, which he denied, not only in this interview, but on the PBD podcast, where he said that there was no election fraud took place. Guys, did you know on TYT's network that they actually did a documentary about what happened in California and how votes were stolen from Bernie Sanders during the 2016 primary in California? TYT, on one of their secondary channels, did a documentary. It's still up there. I did a video on it. I showed snippets of this documentary. It's there. This man is another reality. And not only is Trump living rent-free in his head, but so is Jimmy Dore. He's in his own reality. And then here's something that I have to call out. Number one, we do remember when TYT did that $2 million fundraiser for their 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, or their investigative journalists. There was Sean King, Michael Tracy, Nomiki Kant, and Jordan Sheridan, right? That never came into fruition. But then he says, with Briahna Joy Gray there, that they repaid the $24 million they got from Katzenberg. Katzenberg still sits on the board of TYT. I don't think they paid that off. $24 million. They got that in 2016. And they got rid of all their secondary channels, and they had to lay off some people too. And again, there are some serious red flags here. Now, again, maybe Cenk did pay it off, but that's $24 freaking million that you get from a Clinton donor. I call out the veracity in paying it out. Now, again, if he did, I'll apologize, but it doesn't add up to me. Maybe it's my inner Chicagoan who grew up on the south side of Chicago, seeing guys getting smacked around when they owe money to dudes who will break legs if they have to get their money. But maybe I'm wrong. Keaton, CJ, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know. It's just throughout this entire interview, I'm seeing a man melting down who is jealous of Jimmy Dore and upset that people have moved on without him. But maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe
he doesn't understand that his politics shifting meant that there's a certain segment of people that was going to leave him, and what he really doesn't like is how like you either love Jimmy or hate Jimmy, but the people who love Jimmy love Jimmy. You get what I'm saying? There's no one that go, I love Cenk. You get what I'm saying? There's no one that does that. So there's a certain level, in my opinion, of jealousy that is a tinge of jealousy you can hear in what he's saying. Oh, my daughter came in the room to get her cell phone and some games, of course. All right, so let's start the video. We'll try our best to let us play as long as we can before we just have to outburst and
it's just
speak
okay.
on it. Yeah. So let's listen.
Part of something larger, and then a movement is
actually. Let me rewind it to the actual music. I kind of like the little intro music. Let's listen.
Founder of the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, is out with a new book entitled Justice is Coming, How Progressives Are Going to Take Over the Country, and America is going to love it. I don't know if I'm going to love it.
I can't. So let me tell you, I forgot to tell both of you. I decided to come on this blind. So I haven't watched this is as much as I've watched. I haven't watched any of this yet at all. And I did that
brace yourself,
man.
Purpose. Well, I think you can probably, if you haven't seen it before, Kit, you let me know if you second this. I think the good stuff between him and Bree starts at like the 20-minute mark, right?
Actually, like around 18:21.
Because the first part of it is just kind of boring with Robbie.
Okay, so we'll definitely
18:21 is when he has his epic meltdown. Now at 4 minutes and 48 seconds, he does talk. I know. So because I rewind shit all the time.
Wait, but kid, hold it, because I want to go through each of your timestamps one at a time. We're gonna start with the first one. You said 4
minutes and 48 seconds into it, I believe, is where he is confronted about I believe progressives moving on, but again, to Keaton's point, 18 minutes and 21 seconds in is where you get the
where it really gets the grit.
Yeah.
Okay,
the epic meltdown. Go ahead.
Why I stopped it here is because I saw your coverage on Due Dissidence about Ryan's book. Do we see a parallel here? Do we see both of them coming out with books? Is this like book season, Keaton, that I don't know about? Where you know what I mean? Like, is it seasons of books where they all come out at the same thing? And are the topics similar? He's kind of writing historically about the same movement, and he's writing forward thinking about the same movement, kind of. Go ahead, Keaton.
Yeah, no, I mean they are very similar books, and it is kind of strange that they're coming out right around the same time because they're kind of competing with each other. The difference is, that Ryan Grimm just announced the release of his book a couple weeks ago, which is kind of sleazy in the sense that he didn't disclose that he was writing a book on the Squad back when he was defending them for the rail strike and all that stuff. He could have disclosed that, hey, full disclosure, I'm working on a book on the Squad, because that's been the charge against Ryan Grimm for a while now, is that he is an Access journalist, and the fact that he was working on this book kind of in secret for a while definitely corroborates those claims. Cenk, on the other hand, has been peddling this book for years. He's been selling this book for a long time. He said that this book was coming out like 2 years ago.
No,
I don't know
said
if you guys
coming
remember
out
that, but he's been talking up this book like forever. Maybe 3 years. Yeah, he's been talking this up forever.
I'm so out of the loop.
Similar books, but two very different promotional styles. Ryan Grimm springs it on us at the last minute. This guy has been hawking. He's been hawking this book,
but it's so them. The styles are so them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
exactly,
Ryan Grimm style. Like it looks like he just comes to interview with his hair.
Right.
You know what I mean? He just shows up, and Cenk is obviously procrastinating, dodging, and you know what I mean. And then he eventually does it. It's so them. It shows their personality, at least on screen personality. I don't know them in person.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to announce that I'm going to be writing my own book called I Am Always Right, a Kit Cabell story of bravery.
Coming out February 2033. Yeah, pre-orders are pre-ordered now. We'll ship it to you in 9 years.
All right, so I fast forward to the point you marked, and then I rewinded 1 minute. So 1 minute before your mark. I think you said 18:21 or something.
Yeah,
So we're
yeah,
at 17.
this is the golden part, and you want to continue forward because we're gonna witness a grown ass man meltdown. Number two, let me just tell everyone, show running 101, because my mother worked in makeup art, designing, and production sets. You never wear a goddamn striped shirt to a freaking television interview.
No,
He doesn't care. He doesn't live by those rules.
You gotta live by those rules.
That's why Trump won in 2016 in the first place. The country is so deeply anti-establishment, except no one on TV will ever tell you that, because they are the establishment. They're not going to come on TV and go, hey, by the way, country, I'm going to end the gaslighting here. It turns out you guys all hate us. They're not going to say that, okay? So that is the absolute reality here. So, but when you get into the Jimmys of the world, there's audience capture and there's financial interest. And then some have just lost their minds, in my opinion. Okay. And so, for example, Jimmy does a video that's pro-vaccine. It doesn't get a lot of views. He does one that's vaccine skeptical. It gets a lot of views. Guess what he does next? 20 more videos that are vaccine skeptical. That's called audience capture. And you partly do it for the ego and you partly do it for the money. And it takes strength not to go in that direction. And the right wing is going and capturing these hosts one by one. And everybody has their different things. Look, I don't know Russell Brand and Glenn Greenwald's situation, but I do know that sometimes if some people have done terrible things, where are you going to go? You're not going to go to the left where they're going to out you and they're not going to support you. You're going to go to the right where they circle the wagons and they say you can do anything you want as long as you agree with us.
Cenk, I have to offer some, I think, pushback there. One on two fronts. One, I do think that you're accurately describing a psychological phenomenon where if people are getting a lot of criticism and pushback, some of which they perceive to be bad faith, there is an inclination to spend more time with people who have been nicer. I'm not saying that's a moral choice, but it is an obvious psychological outcome. And does that mean that people within the left community should perhaps extend more grace to each other so that that doesn't actually happen? And the second, I would just want to ask you about, similar accusations, I feel I would be remiss not to bring up, that have been made about your network, Young Turks, about the $20 million of Katzenberg money that some people have argued changed.
He's seething. That's it. Okay, so since I have the ability to come in this fresh, I can have a natural reaction. That's the question that lights the fire, because he's not there yet. And you said this is where it started.
Yeah,
this is it. That question, she says $20 million. He said, "Oh, this mother right here." Okay, you want to take it there, Bree? Okay, now gloves are off. So that seems like that's what's about to happen. Did you want to chime in, Kit, before I play?
No. Just look at his face, because you could tell here's where he just like loses it. He has a candle that's been lit too long kind of meltdown, and that's what's going to happen. So, you're fast forwarding it. I think you went a little bit past it.
No, because I did go fast forward a little bit, because I wanted to show the audience to look how this is the place where his face immediately changes right there. You see right that there, grin goes? See that grin? But let's pick it up and let's play it right here.
Of Katzenberg money that some people have argued changed the direction of TYT's coverage in a more liberal and less left direction.
Yeah.
Is that not the critique, and is that not true? I think that critique is accurate, and I believe that critique is true. Now, he's heard it. I'm not sure he's actually, at least I haven't seen it, maybe one of you. I have never seen him ask this in an interview that he has to answer. Have either of you seen him answer this question about the $20 million from Katzenberg?
No, this is the first time because I even was asking my colleague Daniel, because Daniel even did like a breakdown about the 20 or 24 million that he got from Katzenberg. And what Daniel has informed me, because he was working on the math when we were looking at it together, because Daniel's really good with numbers. He was saying, like, not only is TYT responsible in paying this off, but they have to pay it off in a fast pace, because these people want an investment return right away, because it's always about short-term profits. So I call in the veracity of Cenk saying on air that they did pay it off. Again, look, I will admit that I might be wrong. Maybe Cenk did. But $24 million, 2016, And since then, TYT has been in decline. Maybe their highest peak was at 2018. But if you look at their viewership, again, people tuning in or following them, it is nowhere on par to where they were at in 2016 when they were all with Bernie Sanders. There's a difference between TYT when they got struck by lightning by Bernie and then the aftermath. It's been a slow burn decline. Again, I will say I could be wrong about all of this, but Daniel went over the numbers and I've been looking at their numbers. And I think we've all been kind of disconnected with TYT. Unless Keaton, you got something you want to bring in. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I haven't seen him confronted on this, but it's just amazing that he would be so indignant about this topic, given the fact that TYT built their brand as being independent and free of corporate influence, right? I mean, their whole thesis is that mainstream media is corrupt because it's funded by wealthy donors. And then they take a check from Jeffrey Katzenberg for $20 million and they get indignant when people call them out for that. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. That's like you show up to an organic farmer's market with a Monsanto logo on your truck and people look at you weird. You're like, oh, what, okay, what? I can't, what, I'm not welcome here? I can't set up here? Like, what's the problem? Like, of course there's a problem. It's fundamental. Your whole reason to be is that you are supposedly the antidote to corporate-funded media. So, of course, when you turn around and take a check for $20 million, people are going to be suspicious of that. Why wouldn't they be? You've trained them to be.
True that. All right, let's get back to the video. I mean, this is it though. I mean, I haven't seen the video and I can identify this is the moment.
Obvious psychological outcome. And does that mean that people within the left community should perhaps extend more grace?
Oh yeah, this is it right
to each other so that that doesn't actually happen. And the second, I would just want to ask you about, similar accusations, I feel I would be remiss not to bring up that have been made about your network, Young Turks, about the $20 million of Katzenberg money that some people have argued changed the direction of TYT's coverage in a more liberal and less left direction.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll take it one at a time. Should people show each other more grace on the left? Absolutely. At the same time, you notice a phenomenon, it's okay to point it out. So it's okay for us to point out what Jimmy does with his videos is super obvious. It's one thing to criticize the Democratic Party. As you can tell from this interview, I do it very regularly and very forcefully. It's another thing to say the Republicans are okay. The Republicans are not okay. The Republicans are a disaster. The Republicans are much worse than the Democrats. Okay, now on to the second issue. Yeah, so then people go and look around and they go, okay, well, the Young Turks got $20 million investment. Okay, now here's the things people don't know. People say Katzenberg was involved, no question. The amount he has is near microscopic. And by the way, we paid the money back. So I be honest, that's breaking news.
I call that out. Again, $24 million. You're saying it's microscopic. He still has a board he still has a seat at your board. And if not, he's going to have his ancillaries. Look, when I interviewed Jimmy Dore way back in 2020, okay, and we've all talked to Jimmy. We've seen Jimmy Dore even reflect on this, right? And that is when they got that money, he has said on numerous occasions that there was a shift in the tone at TYT, that they were going to move to the center, that they would have to start reorganizing themselves, that they had to start dressing more professionally, that they had to switch up how TYT was. Because I think we remember TYT before 2016 and after 2016, okay? And there was a big shift in tone and coverage, and the Democrats were getting nice little tongue baths. And when Jimmy Dore was still part of TYT, he had Aggressive Progressive, but that was the most popular show because people were still tuning in with Jimmy because, again, Jimmy was saying on that platform, or at least at the time he was with TYT, with Aggressive Progressive, that, hey, there was election fraud. Hey, Hillary Clinton lost the election because she was a terrible candidate. And they put it behind a paywall. How do I know that? Because even I was a guest on that show for Aggressive Progressive, and that was behind a paywall. It was behind a goddamn paywall. So the thing is, Cenk, you did have a change. TYT did change, and getting that Katzenberg cash, even if you did pay it off, its legacy and impact on your network is for everyone to see, because for those diehard viewers, they remember. And that's what caused many people to turn away from TYT because, we have to be patient, keep our powder dry to vote Democrat, get the hell out of here. Not to mention, again, he's going to keep on talking about Jimmy. He lives rent free in his head. This is very sad. You can see
what does paying back have to do with anything? Like that has
Well,
nothing to do
that's the thing
with
that's
anything.
really strange.
Yeah. Go ahead, Keaton. Go ahead.
Well, that's what's really strange about what he said here. He said earlier on it was an investment. Okay, so he says it wasn't a loan because when he says we paid it back, that makes it sound like it was a loan.
Yeah, exactly.
But if it was an investment, what that means is I'm assuming that Katzenberg maybe received a quarterly dividend, based on his investment, which means when they say they paid it back, all they meant in that case, if that's the case, is that they were profitable enough to the point where they could pay Katzenberg back the $24 million over the course of whatever the investment, whenever they got the money. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened because I don't know that that's what happened. But unless it was a loan, you would assume it would have to be structured that way because how else could you say you quote unquote paid it back? If it wasn't a loan, but it was an investment, that means Katzenberg probably had a piece of the action and he's probably recouped that initial $20 million investment by now. But that's not paying it back. That means you've made enough money to the point where he's recouped on his initial investment. Now, once again, just want to be 100% on the level. I'm not saying that is what happened. I'm saying it sounds like that's what he's saying if he's saying that it was an investment and not a loan. If it's an investment, he must have a stake in the company somehow.
His answer is very jumbled. Let's listen to it again because
let's listen to it again.
It's very jumbled, and that happens when you're trying to obfuscate the truth. You're trying to give as much of the truth as you can without showing your whole hand. Because you notice mid-thought, he'll start a sentence, and in mid-thought, he completely changes like AOC does. She does this very same thing when she's trying to address an issue she doesn't want to address. Let's listen.
Okay, so I'll take it one at a time. Should people show each other more grace on the left? Absolutely. At the same time, you notice a phenomenon. It's okay to point it out. So it's okay for us to point out what Jimmy does with his videos. It's super obvious. It's one thing to criticize the Democratic Party. As you can tell from this interview, I do it very regularly and very forcefully. It's another thing to say the Republicans are okay. The Republicans are not okay. The Republicans are a disaster. The Republicans are much worse than the Democrats. Okay, now on to the second issue. Yeah, so then people go and look around and they go, okay, well, the Young Turks got 20 million investment. Okay, now here's the things people don't know. People say Katzenberg was involved, no question. The amount he has is near microscopic. And so
the amount he has is near microscopic. You see how he's pausing and thinking. He doesn't have an answer. He doesn't have a good answer for this. What does that mean? He's saying the amount of money. So he was given 20 and Cenk has like 200 million. So that's like a 5% of his money. Is that what he's trying to say? Go ahead, kid. You have the answer.
So look, I like I said, I've been reading the Prince and the Discourses, but I've also been following a lot of other channels that talk about leadership and management. And what Cenk is doing right now is something you do not do in meetings. At nowhere in that point in time did Briahna Joy Gray ask if you pay back that 24 million. She asked how that 24 million or that 20 million impacted TYT. She didn't ask that. Cenk is saying that people, again, this is showing insecurity and that he's telling more than he should. If you ever watch a film like the first and second Godfather 1 and Godfather 2, right? The only reason I'm bringing up these films is because what do Vito and Michael have in common? In the meetings and the sit-downs, they let other people talk. They let other people hang themselves. They let other people share what the hell they're doing because they get upset. Like Mo Green yelling at Michael, or either at other people at that sit-down where Vito finally realizes that Barzini is the one who's the traitor. Cenk is telling us more than we asked because we didn't ask for all of this, and he's panicking. He is afraid. Sometimes it's if he was truly confident as he says he is, he wouldn't be exploding as he is right now. But
it's a guilty conscience. It's a guilty conscience that it shows that it's a tale that shows a guilty conscience because he's saying already, I paid it back. Isn't that's you trying to say, yeah, I know it's bad, but I already fixed it. I already fixed it. Like already paid it back. That's what he's trying to say. And he doesn't even address the question, or maybe he does. Let me let it play and see if he addresses the question.
Oh, and by the way, we paid the money back. So I be honest, that's breaking news. We've never told anyone that, but we did. So
No one asked for that.
That has no influence
Yeah,
on
no
us.
one
But
cares.
most importantly, Briahna, people just make up that we went towards the right way or went towards the
Make up?
moderate Democrats. I mean, they call me
What?
like those that the lunatic fringe that follow Jimmy say we're establishment shills. They haven't watched 1 minute of the show. I mean, look at what the things I said to you before this question, right? Does it look like a 1% pro-establishment? But they will see that and go,
Yes.
aha, knew it. He's
Yeah.
for Hillary Clinton. Well, I can't help you if you're not dealing with facts.
I just did a video on you, Cenk, and Anna saying the Democratic Party is way better. You guys were freaking pushing Joe Biden.
He said it 2 minutes
What
ago
is
right
he
here.
Yeah.
What is he talking about?
He is what he's doing right now is he's failing. he is failing about, and he is acting not of his age. What he's doing is he's trying to bolster up an image by talking louder, by talking down, and again spewing out points that nobody asked for. So already, what is he sharing with us? That apparently he paid off that $20 million he got from Katzenberg, but if it was an investment, then wait. Why would they pay it back? Is it a loan? What is it? Again, Keaton, you brought it out. He is telling us more than we asked, and he is, again, panicking because he wants to project an image of respect and confidence that TYT has since lost. Okay? TYT has lost that perception of confidence. At one point, they were the only big game in town. Now, not so much. This is Power 101. This man is a terrible leader.
All right, let's play a little more of the video here.
Facts and logic. You can't show anything where we're in favor of Hillary Clinton.
Well,
No
specifically,
one
let me
fights
help you,
harder in the
Cenk.
primaries against corporate
in the
Democrats
primaries,
than
no one
TYT
fights harder.
does, Young Turks does, and I do. I formed the Justice Democrats to fight against corporate
Such a
Democrats,
tale.
and we defeated them.
Such a
There's
tale.
nothing more
No.
practical and more real than what I did there in that instance.
I mean, Cenk, I think
And
specifically
throughout.
one of the moments that I remember of TYT being characterized as no longer capturing the spirit of the Justice Democrats or what the Justice Democrats were supposed to do was the moment around Force the Vote, where there was a push for the elected squad members to take an adversarial relationship to the Democratic Party and Nancy Pelosi specifically, to withhold their votes for them the same way that we've now seen the Freedom Caucus model with withholding their votes for Kevin McCarthy at the beginning of this year, really testing the theory of how that would work and getting in return a number of concessions that I think we can all acknowledge would be amazing for the left to have achieved. And at that time, despite there being a poll that TYT put out of its audience, where a majority of the TYT audience seemed to support Force the Vote, the newscasters, the personalities on the show
You see
were
his
very
mouth?
much against it.
Oh,
and
yeah,
as I'm
yeah.
sure you can
Yeah.
remember, that
No, I've
caused a
watched enough content. You see how he has his mouth? That's him forcing his mouth together. He knows he is seething right now. That is not a natural expression for him. He is pressing his lips together so that he doesn't interrupt her. He's not on his network. He doesn't want to come off as a maniac like he did in the last interview.
He is.
But let's play it some more.
a significant rift down the left that persists in many ways. What do you say to that? I see you shaking your head.
Yeah, it's crazy. But thank you for bringing it up because I'm happy to address it and try to clarify it the best I can. Guys, do I look like I don't want to force votes? Of course
Yes,
I do,
yes,
right?
Yes, you did.
Yes. What does that mean? Why are you asking that question? Do I look like? Well, if you didn't do it, that would mean you look like you wouldn't do it.
Well,
It's
there's
such
more
a
to
silly
that.
question to pose.
There's so much more to that because again, look, Cenk was for at least 1 week, including Sam Cedar, were on board with Force the Vote. Now, again, maybe they got a phone call, but also during that same time, that's when Anna did her Me Too against Jimmy Dore for his nice new skirt thing. All right. Again, it is, and then also even asking where Anna got some jeans so he could buy it for his wife. Okay. First of all, Anna, after so long, sends that direct message in as a threat to Jimmy, which is so stupid. I think we all remember that. But again, that was happening during Force the Vote. All right. For all what Jimmy and everyone else was asking for force of vote is, let's get a roster of how many Democrats and yes, Republicans that would vote against Medicare for all at the height of a pandemic. If the 15 congressmen and women who are on the force of vote petition formed a coalition to withhold their vote for Nancy, it would put them on the spotlight, these corporate Democrat jagoffs. All right. And no, McCarthy would not become Speaker of the House because we saw the Freedom Caucus do that, and Hakeem Jeffries didn't become Speaker of the House. They kept on revoting and revoting and revoting. That's what would happen if AOC had the audacity and courage to do so, to push for a force of vote. No Republicans are going to become Speaker of the House, okay? It was safe and secure, but Cenk didn't do it because Cenk either got a phone call or something else happened. This is a man who has a guilty conscience.
Any comments, Keaton, before we go back?
No, we can let that run. I think that was well said.
Yeah.
I think that covered everything I could have said.
And I tell every congressperson that's going into Congress for the first time, if they'll listen to me, I tell them, you have to create what the civil rights movement called good trouble. Now, that doesn't mean you go in wildly and flailing around doing impractical things, but it means you come up with a coordinated strategy, you then create good trouble, and then you put a spotlight on an issue where you are on the winning end of it, popularity-wise. So, for example, one of the things we did with Justice Democrats is as soon as AOC won, we did a sit-in in Nancy Pelosi's office. That put Green New Deal on the map. That put Sunrise Movement on the map.
Okay, I'm sorry. CJ, can you pause for 1 second?
Justice Democrats
the idea that agitating for a Green New Deal in Nancy Pelosi's office was more popular with the general public than forcing a high-profile showdown over Medicare for all, which polls extremely well amongst the general public, is just nonsense. Like, the coordinated strategy was to go virtue signal in Nancy Pelosi's office over a Green New Deal, which is not nearly as popular or as urgent as universal health care. And so that is just a piece of gaslighting right there. Yeah. Sorry.
No problem. All right, let's get right back to it. Let's see what he says.
I want you to take those kind of actions, but you have to actually use your mind and independent judgment as to which action to take. So force a vote. Jimmy comes to me. Back then, we're still friends and allies. And I go, oh, look, it sounds like a pretty good idea.
Fucking solar panels in Nancy Pelosi's office. That's what the people really want you to do, as opposed to force a reckoning on universal health care.
Thank you for saying that, because
their argument against it. I'm sorry, Kit. I'll give it right to you. No. But their argument against it, Kit, is they can't. It's an argument that Sam and Cenk they can no longer make. This is why he's not as confident in arguing against force to vote, because he seems very not incompetent. That's what I meant to say, but he doesn't seem confident in his argument or being as forceful as speaking against it, because we can literally talk about the Freedom Caucus and name tangible things they got. You get what I'm saying? So it's not a fantasy anymore. We can literally say, what do you mean? This just happened this year. Force to vote just happened this year with GOP. Why didn't we do this? We could have this. We could have this. Imagine if Nancy Pelosi was in a position that Kevin McCarthy is in, where one person can call for a vote to vacate the speaker. You know how embarrassing that would be, right, to have all these people just, even if it's not going to pass, just the fact that you're bringing this up, it'll be a little, well, why are you asking for this issue? It brings more attention to the issue. Just think about it, guys. How if the squad was in the same position, they hate you, but they have to listen to you, right? Just like they have to listen to Matt Gaetz. Go ahead, guys.
Right.
If you
want so again, with because I remember covering the situation that Kevin McCarthy had to go through with my colleague Farron at the time, and we both found it hilarious that the Freedom Caucus was gaining so much political ground and getting all their almost majority of their concessions met by the Republican Party. It is rather sad and pathetic that there are people who still carry water for the Democratic Party, because the squad could have done the same thing. But it leads me to call into question just what is the squad there for, or is that the squad in name? Because these progressives won't fight. So if you're in the Democratic Party and you call yourself a progressive, I don't view you as an ally or somebody who I can talk to. I view you as somebody who is just trying to put on a preface to a corrupt party, because if the Republicans can gain ground and get what they want, you don't have a goddamn excuse in my book. And it tells me that I can't trust you. I can't work with you. You don't respect me. And you don't respect the people who worked and knocked on doors to get you into office because you said you would fight. AOC's now been in politics for 5 years. She said she'd be okay with being just a one-term congresswoman. She's a hypocrite. She's Nancy Pelosi 2.0, as are all of her colleagues as well. I remember one of, again, my Congresswoman Marie Newman, who's from Illinois. She was only one term in, and she was just like any other corporate Democrat, and yet she ran with the Justice Democrats and progressives. She didn't do anything, and she was on, again, that force to vote petition, and she didn't fight. And even though she said she'd fight for Medicare for all, Democrats, liberals, vote blue no matter who. Sell your fear corn, 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 to somebody else, because I ain't buying it.
All right, so let's get back to the video. Let's see where it goes from here.
We want to do something where we're forcing action, right? So, well, what's your plan, Jimmy? He's like, well, we're going to force a vote, and we're going to.
That's not what Jimmy said.
Get Medicare for all. I'm like, brother,
no.
I want Medicare for all, but you have to take steps. You have to take steps. If you go straight to Medicare for all, you have a 0% chance of it passing, and you're going to waste the power and the leverage. And who?
You think he doesn't hear, Bree? He is trying to prolong what he's saying because he can hear Bree wants to interrupt. He knows Bree's about to spike the ball in his face. That's what he's doing. So let's let it play out and see what happens.
Yeah, she does.
Who are you going to get as Speaker of the House? And he's
That
like,
wasn't the argument.
I don't know. That's your strategy. No, I'm not going to agree with a moron who has no strategy, no plan, not at all practical. We could have forced the vote on $15 minimum wage, and we could have won that vote.
Oh,
but
yeah. Oh, sure,
yeah, well, you didn't do what I wanted. Okay, then I'm out.
He's clearly been triggered.
I'm not going to help you guys get the bills that
well,
we all
there's a
want.
few different lies there. Number one, no one, including Jimmy Dore, ever said we would get Medicare for all if we did force the vote. Nobody ever said we were going to win it right then and there. The point of that was to get everybody on record as to whether or not they would support a Medicare for all bill and force that debate not only in the halls of Congress, but that would thereby obviously force a debate throughout the country. That's number one. Number two, there was never this mystery about who would end up Speaker of the House. In fact, the plan for force the vote was always for Nancy Pelosi to end up Speaker of the House, but the idea was to force her to give certain concessions to the progressive wing in order to get there, just like the Republicans did to their eventual House leader. And the third thing that he mentioned right here. What was the thing that he just said here? He said, some lunatic comes in here screaming at me. It's unfocused. I forget what it was.
Yeah, no,
foaming at the mouth.
Let's play it.
Yeah,
foaming at the mouth. Right.
No, I'm not going to agree with
the third thing. The third thing is, well, if you're foaming at the mouth and you're yelling at me and you're not asking me what I think, right? In terms of like there was never a counter offer as to, hey, let's not try Medicare for all, let's do minimum wage. I'm sure if somebody put forward a better idea, we'd have been open to that.
That never happened.
Right, but that never happened. According to Briahna Joy Gray, and I believe she is right about this, I think Sirota sort of marginally supported it, but thought that there were better asks. Right. And that's why they had that big Zoom call where Jimmy was on it and a bunch of other guys were on it. I think Sirota was on it. I think Matt Stoller was on it. I might be mistaken about that. But there were some people who were like, yeah, this sounds like a good idea, but Medicare for all is not the right ask. There was some openness as to what the right ask was. But Cenk wasn't part of that conversation. Cenk never said, hey, let's do $15 minimum wage instead. He's full of shit.
Why isn't your response? And then I'll play the video. Why isn't your response? Wow, forcing a vote is a good idea. But let's have a different ask, or let's have multiple asks. If you want Medicare for all, why isn't that your response instead of, is Jimmy involved? And let's get back to the video.
With
Okay,
a moron
well,
who has
wait,
no
wait,
strategy, no plan, not at all practical. We could have forced a vote on $15 minimum wage, and we could have won that vote.
No,
But instead,
hold on.
the
I'm
force
sorry.
vote
I'm
like,
sorry.
yeah,
Can
you
you
didn't do
pause
what I
it?
wanted.
I'm sorry. Can you please pause it, rewind it? I'm sorry. But $15 minimum wage, we saw Cinema do her little curtsy and do her thumbs down. Okay, that's what she did. And then second of all, look, it's not about Jimmy Dore. Even Jimmy said it during the height of Force the Vote. It's not about him. It's not about Cenk. It's about a bigger picture overall. I've spoken to Jimmy Dore, and I could proudly say I know Jimmy Dore, okay? It wasn't about him. It was about a fight for Medicare for all. Force the Vote. Jimmy didn't even come up with it. It's from the freaking DSA playbook that they won't even pick up. So in other words, there were people in other positions of power, other organizations that could have led for Force the Vote. Jimmy saw it and said, hey, guys, let's do this. And none of those people did it, including DSA and everybody else. So it's not about Jimmy. It was about something bigger than all of us. But no, Jimmy lives in Cenk Uygur's head because you know what? Probably Cenk Uygur is an egomaniac, and he's ticked off that maybe Jimmy was the one who led it. But guess what, Cenk? The Democrats won't fight for you. The squad won't fight. They won't even go on your goddamn show anymore.
Right. Well,
Is
and also,
Jimmy your problem? Sorry. Again, go.
No. That's okay.
Take it
No,
away,
I
take it away,
think,
take
but
it
I
away.
do, and I'm going to play it here. I do. What if the Katzenberg money, what if part of that deal is for him to remain distant from Jimmy? Because many people are trying to facilitate a sort of a smoothing over this relationship and trying to and come together. But he's the one, because Jimmy's never saying, I would never. He's the one that's always saying, I would never associate with Jimmy. But let's get back.
Okay, then I'm out. I'm not going to help you guys actually get the bills that we all want. Oh, come on, man. Grow up.
No, so Cenk, I
That
would
was
point out that
terrible
Kevin
response.
McCarthy is still Speaker of the House. The issue was not whether or not Nancy Pelosi would necessarily become Speaker. The left, people
Briahna,
like
tell me
yourselves.
who.
Wait a minute.
Who's
Cenk,
going
if
to
I
replace
could-
Nancy Pelosi?
Cenk,
Did
if
you
I
guys have a
could-
candidate? Who?
Cenk,
Nobody.
Cenk,
That
if I
wasn't the plan.
the right-wing caucus got a number of meaningful concessions,
Exactly.
regardless
But that's
of.
not what
wait a
we were
minute,
going for,
excuse me.
Briahna. That's
Excuse
exactly
me.
the
But
problem.
what do you mean
If
it's
they
not what
said
you
let's
were
go for
going for? It's
meaningful
exactly what they were
concessions,
going
I would have
for.
been in. They said we're going to get
That's
Medicare.
bullshit.
So he's
absolute
saying, yeah,
nonsense.
that's what I'll. So go ahead, Keaton. Then I'll chime in because I think
that's
you're going
probably
down the same
absolute
line.
nonsense.
go
The whole
Take away,
point
Keenan.
was to get concessions from Nancy Pelosi. That was the
Yep.
whole point. That was the whole design. He's acting like we wanted. Look, if the goal was to tank Nancy altogether, then it wouldn't have been called Force the Vote because you wouldn't have been forcing anything.
Right.
You would just stubbornly refuse to back Nancy Pelosi until they pick someone else. No concessions, no, we'll give you this in exchange for that, nothing. I actually don't think that would have been a particularly bad idea, to be honest. But that was not what the plan was. The reason it was called Force the Vote was because you were going to force concessions from Nancy Pelosi in exchange for the speakership. That was the entire design.
I think them retelling, they have to change the story. This is an indication of how weak your argument is that in order for your argument to look good, you have to be dishonest about the other person's argument. And that's what Cenk and everybody kind of who's against Force the Vote, especially now that we've seen how it could have worked. Because just because somebody is saying let's force the vote on Medicare for all doesn't exclude adding other things, just like the Freedom Caucus did. They didn't have one ask. If you have this position of power to ask if anything, why would you only do anything? Like, why the point that we're all trying to get to, Cenk, is why not enter the conversation to make it better and say, yeah, okay, force the vote this. Now let's add this. Somebody else would have come in. Let's add this. Now we got 7 things we're forcing the vote on. But you was like, I'm wiping my hands of it and forget about it. It makes me feel like was the $20 million you got from Katzenberg, was it paid back by force to vote? Or did you just recently pay it back? Or did you just now, pay it back before force to vote? Because that could be an influence of why he decided to not do that. I'm just saying that $20 million is a great influence. But let's get back to Bree.
Medicare for all.
Cenk,
Sure
with all
we
due
are.
respect, your
Fantasyland.
characterization of what happened, I think, is reflective of the lack of grace and communication that was happening among the left at the time.
Wow.
And I think if people had been less motivated
I'll tell
by
you
their
why.
personal animosities against each other, it seemed that Jimmy Dore, you've expressed some animosity toward him several times during our short conversation here. I do think if those personal animosities weren't at play, maybe we could have been in a world where you were listening to myself, Crystal Ball, Kyle Kulinski, other figures on the Cornell West, Chris Hedges,
he just
who were
killed
also
him right there.
advocating for this and who were being very clear that there were any numbers.
Because he looked like a raving maniac. And then just previously in the conversation, they were just talking about how left conversation and Discord is. And he's like, we were just talking about this, Cenk, and you're proving it right here. And did you see the change in his face? Like, oh, wow. Yeah. Like you can see it. He's trying to hold that shit in, but you can see this fool realize he got caught right here in the same interview of saying, oh yeah, I'm against that. Just pointing out stuff. But look how huffy and puffy you just got, Cenk. And Jimmy is not even here. They're not even asking you a question about Jimmy.
Yeah,
They're
Jimmy was
asking
brought
about
for no
forced to
reason.
vote.
Exactly.
They're asking about forced to vote. You're the one asking about. You're the one that keeps inserting Jimmy, just like the previous interview you did with Bree on TYT. It's so telling that this guy is such a temperamental, like I'm trying not to, I just played a video. I don't want to
Number of demands. I wrote an article in Current Affairs that set all of this out contemporaneously, so you can go back and look. But it wasn't this idea that we were going to hold the vote and magically get Medicare for all. And to the extent that that was your presumption
Briahna,
or your belief,
No,
I
it
do
wasn't.
She just told you she has contemporaneous evidence, which is an article written at the time, Cenk. How are you going to dispute that if in the article are the points of why we want to force a vote or what do we want to do? And now you've retelling the history because you look bad. Like this hasn't aged well for you. And the Freedom Caucus have extracted all of these things and they're getting what they want.
And the other lie that he told, because look, all of this is just a pack of lies. I mean, that's all this is. The idea that, well, we could have won the $15 minimum wage. We could have passed the $15 minimum wage had we picked that battle instead of Medicare for all. $15 minimum wage passed the House in 2021. Build Back Better passed the House. Build Back Better had enough votes in the House. We're talking about forced to vote. We're talking about the House. Once you clear the House, you have to clear the Senate, where, of course, $15 minimum wage, along with the rest of the Build Back Better program, died at the hands of Sinema and Manchin. So the idea that there was a winnable fight that was passed over in favor of a losing fight, Medicare for all, again, that is just ahistorical bullshit. It's just not true. It's simply a lie to say that.
Yeah, and let's see where I don't want to know where can he take it from here after she completely diffuses him.
It gets better
Go
because
ahead.
again we're going to see a grown man act like a child. And again, one other final note: it's very petty, and it's what I'm going to say is out of pure pettiness. You never wear a striped T-shirt at an interview, okay? On TV. You just look. It messes with the camera lens. It does all this stuff. Solid colors, my lovelies. Wear solid goddamn colors. It's not
for me.
Too hard.
You don't even wear a pinstripe without a jacket. It doesn't. You don't wear a pinstripe without a jacket. That's. I don't get that. But anyway, let's play the video. Maybe he wore a jacket earlier and he just doesn't have it in the interview. I'm hoping that's what it is because it's weird to wear a pinstripe shirt.
Yeah, he's probably too nervous. He probably started sweating. He had to take it off.
And this is from a guy who had to wear a suit and tie for work for like 15 years straight. So
exactly,
it's just not it. But
who's going to replace Nancy Pelosi? Did you guys have a candidate? Who?
Cenk, if I could, the right-wing caucus got a number of meaningful concessions. Regardless
But that's
of,
not what
wait a
we were
minute,
going for,
excuse me,
Briahna. That's
excuse
exactly
me.
the problem. If they said, let's go
Excuse
for
me.
meaningful concessions, I would have been in. They said,
was
we're
what
going to
they were
get
going
Medicare
for.
for all.
Cenk, with
Sure
all
we
due
are.
respect,
Absolute
your
fantasy land.
characterization of what happened, I think, is reflective of the lack of grace and communication that was happening among the left at
Look
the
at his
time.
face right here.
And I think if people had been less
I'll
motivated
tell
by
you
their
why.
personal animosities against each other, it seemed that Jimmy Dore, you've expressed some animosity toward him several times during our short conversation here. I do think if those personal animosities weren't at play, maybe we could have been in a world where you were listening to myself, Crystal Ball, Kyle Kulinski, other figures on the Cornel West, Chris Hedges, who were also advocating for this and who were being very clear that there were any number of demands. I wrote an article in Current Affairs that set all of this out contemporaneously, so you can go back and look, that it wasn't this idea that we were going to hold the vote and magically get Medicare for all. And to the extent that that was your presumption
Briahna,
and your
you know it
belief,
was.
I do think that is
Name
a
one
real
other thing.
problem with
Name one other
communication on the
concession
left.
that you guys wanted at the time. Name one other concession at the time. Don't make it up now. At the time, name one other thing you guys
I invite
want.
you and the rest of the audience to go look at an article I wrote in Current Affairs magazine in November of 2020, in which I consulted with David Sirota and included a list of subsequent ancillary demands that he had written up in his own publication. And I linked.
He looks like a fucking fool. He looks like an idiot. Go ahead, Keaton.
This is a very important point to make. He said, can you name one other thing besides Medicare for all? Again, he's being intentionally dishonest there.
No. Yeah,
because
true.
what he's saying is, can you name something besides Medicare for all, as if the expectation was to actually pass Medicare for all and have Joe Biden sign Medicare for all. That is not what the goal was. The goal was to force a floor vote on Medicare for all. And he's being intentionally slippery with his language. He's saying Medicare for all to mean we're going to pass it, sign it, and implement it. That was never the goal. Nobody ever thought that was going to happen. It obviously didn't have the votes to pass then. It still wouldn't have the votes to pass now in the GOP-controlled House. But I'm saying even if the Democrats win this year, we're nowhere near that. That wasn't the point. It was never the point. That was never the point. The point was to force a vote on it, not to pass it. And he is conflating those two things on purpose.
And also shine a light on the Democratic lawmakers that would be against Medicare for all at the height of the pandemic. It was about reinvigorating hope and fire within the progressive movement and maybe potentially reforming the Democratic Party.
Exactly.
Being generous with those words, maybe reforming the Democratic Party, but they didn't. And the thing is, Jimmy wasn't raving at the mouth. I think the reason why Jimmy got angry at the end of it was because people were making it about Jimmy Dore. And Jimmy has said on numerous occasions, and even when I interviewed him in the aftermath of it, he said, it's not about me. That's what Jimmy Dore said to me. I've spoken to him not only online, but face-to-face about it.
Yeah, I believe he said this too at the time, and
so it wasn't about him. Sorry to cut you off, Keaton. Go ahead.
No, it's okay, because I wasn't so much active in the YouTube space back then. We started our show as just an audio podcast and a blog, so I watched this stuff, but I wasn't like wired in the way I'm assuming you guys were. But didn't Jimmy say at the outset? Because I know CJ, you were a Tom Hartman guy, right? You came up.
Yeah,
I
came through the radio. Yeah, I came through the radio.
Maybe you would notice then.
Okay, let's hear it.
Is it? I seem to remember Jimmy saying at the very beginning, the first video he made pitching for us to vote, I believe he said something to the effect of, and please say if I'm wrong, like, I will consider all past feuds water under the bridge if we can unite on this. Did he say something like that?
Can I elaborate more? He says, look. He said, not only did he say that, but again, I have to look at the video before that, but he said, hey, look, I forgive you. You forgive me. Let's put all of this beside us. Let's fight for something bigger, because I think we have an opportunity here. Jimmy was saying, like, hey, we got an opportunity here. Let's put everything behind us. We could do something great here with the aftermath of the election because Biden's in office. So here we go. Let's see if we really can make it happen. And for 1 week, Cenk and Sammy Cedar were on board with forced to vote. Jimmy was the one who said, I will put everything behind me.
Right.
Water under the bridge. So you're absolutely correct. Jimmy Dore was the one who brought it up. But the thing is, he was the one who wanted. What I like to think in my mind, I want to speculate is, I think Jimmy was the one like, hey, let's bring this up. But he wanted to bring other people on board who could articulate it, because there could be trouble on the inside for politics, but trouble on the outside, like a two-pronged strategy, a pincer movement to really push the Democrats and AOC and the 15 congressmen and women to actually push for force of vote. Unfortunately, that didn't come to fruition because I think Cenk and Sam Cedar and a couple other people got a phone call, and then that's also when Anna did her Me Too. So you guys are more or less, yeah, it's on point. I got to find the video for reference, but yeah, that's exactly how it went down.
All right, let's listen to a little more of the interview.
To them and say that these are also important. The important thing is that we need to demand something in exchange for our votes. But we don't need to rehash that. Go ahead. I'll give you the last.
No, I need to say one last thing,
respond.
Briahna. I need to say one last thing. You guys make it sound like we're the ones who have animus. No.
Yes.
Be clear about how this thing started.
God.
As I told you,
You
in the beginning, I
did!
said, well, that's interesting. Let's have a conversation about strategy. And the minute I said, let's have a conversation about strategy, Jimmy said that we were taking money from the CIA and Nancy Pelosi. You just mentioned David Sirota. He also attacked David Sirota. He also attacked Amy Goodman from Democracy Now! and insinuated she was working with the CIA. So then I thought, well, no, I'm not going to work with a lunatic who thinks that Amy Goodman might be working with the CIA. And second of all, I didn't start the fight. This lunatic comes in frothing at the mouth. I'm being funded by CIA. And Nancy Pelosi. How are you supposed to have a rational conversation with an absolute lunatic like that? And then you guys think we started it? Are you insane?
I didn't say you started it. I don't care about the personalities. Cenk, you're talking about personalities. I'm talking about issues. All I know is that David Sirota supported Force the Vote. I had him on my podcast talking about it many times.
That's not true.
Yes, he did.
No,
and he
didn't.
continues to be an advocate that I value and respect a great deal. And he is able, as a mature person, to tease away his personal feelings about human beings that he might share an idea with or a strategy with, and the underlying strategy. And I really do hope that we see more of that on the left and less of a focus on who it is that's delivering a certain kind of a message, especially if you're right, Cenk, and it's going to require a united and powerful independent media force in order to actually ever get a progressive into office. Thank you so much for joining us today and talking through some of these tough issues.
No problem. And you guys are funded by the CIA. But I'm sure you won't take offense at that. So just be cool. Be cool. Let's agree on policies. But you're obviously, Briahna have bought her house, has a Mercedes and a Rolls Royce, all funded by Hillary Clinton and the CIA. But it's cool. It's cool. Let's stay friends.
About the only thing Briahna has convinced me of on this show is that there is, in fact, more dysfunction on the left than on the right. And today is a good example of that. Thank you very much, Cenk.
That, unfortunately, is true.
Yeah, and you're part of it, Cenk.
I am not at all convinced that Cenk doesn't understand the role that he's playing as Chaos Agent. So when you say I paid it back, did you? I would like to see the receipts, sir. And paying it back does not mean you did not fulfill, and it's not continuing to fulfill whatever that money was meant to get from you. Like, it's clear. There's no way. This guy is terrible in interviews. The way he comes off, he's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way he's not going home looking at this shit and going, man, I look bad. Like, no reflection. There's no way that he can have this level of no reflection unless it's intentional. That's why I think this is all intentional. There's no way that he can. You're retelling stories with the whole thing about the speaker thing, for example. How is it in 2023 you still don't understand that Kevin McCarthy was not going to be speaker? Like, how do you still not know that after so many disputes? You get what I'm saying? After so many content has been done on this, for you to still have these sort of misconceptions is telling me it's intentional. There's no way a person who is in this media space, Keaton and Kent, that doesn't by now know some of these things. For example, like Kevin McCarthy would have never been speaker. Why are you still kind of talking about that? It speaks to he is not at all being genuine. Everything he's saying is a projection. Everything he's saying about the other person, about Jimmy, is a projection about himself. He literally just said, you guys act like we started it. Is that a serious thing, Keaton? Is that serious? Go ahead, Keaton or Kit.
No,
take it
it's-
away, Keaton. Go shoot.
It's just complete revisionist history on his part. That whole piece was. I mean, that entire piece was just that. Sirota was part of that big Zoom call where they talked about what the ask might be, right? I mean, he was not unwelcome for, questioning, should it be Medicare for all, should it be something else? They had a big roundtable. I think Katie Halper was part of it, if I'm not mistaken.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah. So there was a conversation going on. Cenk didn't want to be a part of it, and he can't rationalize not wanting to be a part of it because there is just no excuse to have not embraced that at this point. The reason why Cenk didn't want to embrace force to vote is because he was afraid that the squad didn't have the stomach for it and that they would come out of it with egg on their face. And he didn't want them to suffer that sort of branding defeat. Whereas Matt Gaetz and whoever the tit grabber is there, because it wasn't Marjorie Taylor Greene, it was Lauren Boebert, Gaetz, and a few others. They banded together and they said, look, we're going to take a lot of shit for this in the short term, but if we stick to our guns, we will not lose. And they did not lose. They got the new church committee. They got the single vote to recall the speaker concession out of McCarthy, which they're now weaponizing against him right now. And now they're going for another round. And they're going to win some battles. They're going to lose some battles, but they can't lose as long as they stick together. And it was very obvious that the anxiety on the part of the Justice Democrats founders, including Cenk in this case, more than Kyle, who says he was for it, but I think he was pretty mealy-mouthed on it as well, is that the squad didn't have the guts for it, that they would eventually cave and look bad, which is probably true. They probably would have caved and looked bad, but Cenk can't admit that. Like, if you just were man enough to admit, hey, you know why I was against forced to vote? Because I didn't trust AOC not to pussy out in the end. That's an answer. That's an honest answer, right? But what he's acting like your aims were unrealistic, and like I said, I just went down the list earlier. I don't have to say it all again. He just completely made up the actual timeline of how that went down and what the demands actually were.
I think also what we have to take into account, especially with the squad, is that around this time too, Cenk's influence with Justice Democrats, brand new Congress, our revolution, was already evaporated at the time. So he had no power to really influence at all. So even if Cenk were to go on board, he could yell on his platform, but they didn't even show up on his show even during the 2020. Well, I think maybe one of or two, maybe Rokana here and there, but. Again, he wanted access for these people. He had the hope that he could still have Democrats, especially people like AOC, be on the show, and he didn't want to lose access to it. So maybe he was afraid of, if I really go all in, they won't ever show up, and they still won't. They still won't answer his phone calls. And the thing is, even with the creation of Justice Democrats, and I know my colleague Daniel, he brought this up, and that is, Justice Democrats never signed a contract or either that had rules or regulations to ensure that they would keep the squad in line because, they could, let's say there was a contract made like, hey, if you don't do X, Y, and Z for us, not only will we vote you out, but we'll make sure you don't get any more funding and we will do everything we can to remove you because you're not following with our ideology and our responsibility of how we want to reform the Democratic Party. Cenk and Kyle never put that, what do you call that? That's a backup plan in case the squad members or any Justice Democrat members would fail in their responsibility in being elected into office. They never had that foresight. They never had that backup plan.
I'm seeing some comments in the chat that are reminding me what it was. So
I have to head out real quick. Now I'll be right back. There's somebody at the door. And I'm trying to find
absolutely.
I'll be right back.
You said there's comments in the chat,
I just read a couple comments that sort of reminded me what that was. So the panel I'm thinking of, DC put in the chat that was what Katie Halper organized on her channel, which now it is coming back to me a little bit. And that Matt Stoller was against it. Sam says Matt Stoller was opposed it. I remember Matt Stoller started talking something about committee seats. And Jimmy did not like that idea and made it very known that he did not like that idea. I remember he screamed at him. He said, "Yeah, you fucking nerd," or something like that.
That's so milquetoast.
Yeah,
I would be the same way. I would
so
be
that's
like,
what that was. So that, but there was a round table. There was a panel discussion where they talked it out, and as I understand, it like it got heated at certain points, but they sat down and talked it through. And to the best of my memory, and I apologize, I probably shouldn't have brought this up if I didn't remember exactly what I was talking about. But if anybody in the chat wants to confirm this, Cenk was not on that call. He was not present for that. He just didn't want a part of it. And like I said, the chat, if there's anybody in there with a better memory than me, correct me if I'm wrong.
That could have been a call where he said, "Hey, how about we add this on there? How about we ask for this? How about we ask for these other things?" But of course, he's a bad faith actor. I just don't buy that he's still messing up these details. I don't buy that. So I take it as him just conceding the point, and he's refusing. He's conceding the point via refusing to acknowledge reality of what actually happened when you were even talking about it in the past. It's just completely dishonest. But let's get to the Hunter Biden story. Hunter Biden sues the IRS, gentlemen. This is a lighter story. I mean, because it was kind of it's a drag to listen to Cenk say this nonsense. So let's get into a more a story that we can tell it more one-liners, and I think that's the Hunter Biden story. So let me bring up the first receipt I wanted to show, or not actually receipt. Let's get like the basics of the story, meaning the basics of the lawsuit, and the details of that. But first, just want to shout out a couple of things. Our Substack, if you are looking to know when we go live, join our Substack, because sometimes we do have an erratic sort of schedule. Nick and I in particular, where we'll just go, like for example, today, typically we do the Post-Duopoly show on a Monday, and we did it on a Tuesday. And if you're on our Substack, you get the notification of changes like that. And I don't know if I put this up earlier, but that's the website. I don't know if I put the actual link up, but there you go. And also, last thing I want to remind also is Patreon. I think we have 5 tiers. Each one of us, we have 5 members, so each one of us has a tier. And then you can create your own for as little as $2 a month. So if you have the funds, $2 a month, and you want to be a member of our Patreon, please go to the link scrolling at the bottom, and let me put that down there now. All right, gentlemen, let's do this one. This is what I would call a funny story. Anytime I'm doing the Hunter Biden stories, I always kind of take it as a lighthearted kind of story. This is a guy with privilege, a guy that is going through problems with his addiction, and a guy that's just putting his dad through a lot of heartache. So it's just, it's the tale of everybody's family. It's like, this kind of guy, but it's still funny to me. But go ahead. If I can't see you, but it sounds like somebody wanted to chime in. It's just funny to me.
Go ahead, Keen.
No. I was just laughing.
It's lighthearted. Maybe not funny. It's lighthearted to me. But let's play it now. This is CNN just breaking the news about Hunter Biden suing the IRS.
New this morning. Hunter Biden is suing the IRS, saying the agency unlawfully disclosed his tax information and failed to protect his private records. This has been filed days after Biden was indicted on a 3-felony gun charge. And we've also learned he also faces a potential tax charge again as well. CNN's Kara Scannell joins me now with the very latest. Do we have any sense of why Biden is suing now over this? There was a plea deal involving the money he owed for taxes, but now he's suing the IRS.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of a bolder legal strategy by the Biden defense team. And they're filing this lawsuit against the IRS, saying that through their agents, either the 2 whistleblowers, Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler, that they disclosed private information and that the IRS didn't do a good job of safeguarding that information. And what they're alleging here is that
are they? It's now this weekend. You guys can chime in on this if you know. Are they saying Let me hear that again to make sure I'm understanding what she's saying before I ask the question here.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of a bolder legal strategy by the Biden defense team, and they're filing.
Yeah, are they saying his privacy with the IRS was broken because of the testimony, or they're saying something that happened in the past? Do either of you know that about this story? I know you may not.
I would imagine it would have to be related to the public testimony. Because
right.
how else can you sue the IRS for invasion of privacy? Their whole reason, the reason they exist is to invade people's privacy.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
Yeah.
let's face it. If any one of us fail on our responsibility to pay our taxes, they'll jump on top of us so fast that we don't even know what happened. I mean, again, the fact that somebody like Hunter Biden's now doing this tells me that he is afraid and he's doing this to deflect.
Filing this lawsuit against the IRS, saying that through their agents, there's the two whistleblowers, Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler, that they disclosed private information and that the IRS didn't do a good job of safeguarding that information. And what they're alleging here is that the whistleblowers went beyond what is accepted under the statute that protects a whistleblower from going forward. So in their lawsuit, they allege these agents' putative whistleblower status cannot and does not shield them from their wrongful conduct in making unauthorized public disclosures that are not permitted by the whistleblower process. In fact, a whistleblower is supposed to uncover government misconduct, not the details of that employee's opinion about the alleged wrongdoing of a private person. So in this lawsuit, they point to a number of public appearances by the whistleblowers and their attorneys, where, including on CNN, where they're talking about their thoughts about this investigation, that Hunter Biden had received favorable treatment. They also specifically talk about what they say Hunter Biden had in his tax returns. That was that he was taking as personal expenses, but marking them as business expenses, including expenses for prostitutes, for sex club memberships, and for hotel rooms for purported drug.
I mean, you took the deduction. Listen, if you take the deduction, if you claim those as deductions, then you're making that their business. Like, I don't see how you can sue for violation of privacy if you deducted them and they were called in to testify.
Right.
What else were they going to do? What were they supposed to do? Not talk about it? Not disclose it? I mean, they had to. So, I mean, look, I'm not a lawyer, but it seems like a difficult case to win.
Yeah, and the thing is, it could be a case that they're not literally trying to win. Like there's a lot of maneuvering when it comes to the law and attorneys. There's a lot of maneuvering, so they could file something just as a way of a maneuver. This case could all be just a way of bringing attention to this so-called evidence that could be used against them. You get what I'm saying? Like,
it could just be working the clock too. I mean, I have a theory that I floated on my show, the last episode we did with the Hunter gun charge. And this is a prediction that I'm gonna go out on a limb here and make that they might use this Hunter Biden legal drama as an excuse to push Biden out of the race. Because I don't think they can really admit that he's too old and falling apart, because there's just too much reputational damage that the party would suffer for having gaslighted people about it for so long. But I do think there comes a point where if these Hunter Biden charges pile up and drag on long enough, the Biden team might just say, hey, look, this is a distraction heading into an election that we don't think the country can afford. Therefore, in the name of not making this a distraction during the campaign, Biden is going to withdraw. And the compelling thing about using Hunter as an excuse is that they might be able to stretch that excuse thin enough to get Kamala out of the race too, because she's part of the administration. So they might be able to say, look, we just need a clean slate because there's a conflict of interest between this administration and what's going on with the president's son. And so just so that the public is not consumed with this drama during the election, especially given Trump's legal problems, we might just have to pick somebody new altogether, and that's when Gavin Newsom would step in. And I have not been a big believer in the theory that Biden wasn't going to be on the ticket in November of next year. I always thought that as crazy as it sounds, like he's the incumbent, he's their guy, they're going to ride or die with this guy. But as his polling gets worse, as his cognitive state gets worse, as his physical state gets worse, it's harder and harder for me to just envision him being on the ballot.
Yeah.
Not now, but 14 months from now. Don't forget, he's probably going to be worse by then. And this might be the thing they need. This could be potentially the perfect excuse they need to get
Go
him
ahead,
out.
Kit.
I've actually shared this on my show too. Like, there's a lot of excuses in which the Democrat Party, and again, they're a private institution, can make the excuse of, okay, we have to drop Biden and still have Kamala be their one person to go to, even though she is not popular. Because again, remember, to Marianne Williamson and RFK Jr.'s credit, they both started their campaigns early on before the deadline. So the Democrats got a small window still of finding their next establishment pick. So this with Hunter Biden, as well as Biden's age and so many other things, they can say like, okay, turns out there's so many legal troubles. It doesn't need to be a distraction to the country. This could very well be the excuse that they're looking for to drop Biden and still have Kamala. But
I think the legal excuse they can get, they can probably sideline Kamala using this legal excuse because she's in the Biden administration.
You think so?
Because she would be in government during the time this is all happening, right? She's not Joe, but she's part of the Biden administration. She's part of his inner circle. They need an excuse that takes care of the Harris problem, because Kamala is a bigger problem than Biden.
True. So she is, but they're trying to really promote her. They're really trying to promote her. I don't mean to cut you off here.
That ain't gonna happen.
I know it's not going to happen, but I remember on Martin Luther King Day in 2019, the Democratic Party was really trying to promote her as the next Obama, as the next Hillary. She's black, she's a woman, and she could do all this stuff and start off with a bang, end off with a fizzle. They might be really trying to do that just to get the sympathy points from the vote blue no matter who crowd. Again, you are probably correct again in the assumption that, again, her numbers are absolutely terrible in comparison to Biden. But again, maybe it's just to save the Democrats less paperwork to do because she's still part of that said administration.
I think the reason they're building Kamala up is in anticipation of Biden being on the ticket, because Kamala's a problem either way, because people are afraid that if Biden wins again, Kamala's going to take over. So they feel a need to build Kamala up to assure people that if Biden can't finish his term, Kamala is able to do the job. So I think that's why they're trying to build her up. I don't think they're trying to build her up to put her on the top of the ticket. There is no one in that party who thinks there is a chance in hell that Kamala Harris can win a national race. Nobody. And so if they can't sideline both of them, then they have to stick with Biden. And the age excuse is not enough to sideline Kamala. Because if they say, well, Biden's too old, he can't run, that means Kamala has to run. So that's no good. That's not good enough. The legal issues and the conflict of interest throughout the administration, not just with Joe himself, but they need an excuse that creates a conflict throughout the entire administration to the point where they can bring in Newsom is who they would bring in. And that could be in the works. You know, it's starting to look that way.
I think it is. And you know what? I think all of us are alluding to this point that you said you're going to go out on a limb, because this is not a limb. We alluded to this too, but I said it. I said it a different way. Hang on a second. Let me see if I have it.
But see, Newsom's a goddamn failure too. People are leaving California en masse. I have a few friends in California who have said to me, like, again, I don't want to name all of them, but I mean, and again, they're saying to me, like, a kid, like, you know, we're really saving up to leave. Maybe next year we could leave out of here because it's so nuts. The economy's not doing well. The Democrats are running it to crap, and you know, there are people who want to leave California because of Newsom's management. Look at what he did during the pandemic.
No, you're speaking Russ's language. Russ says that being governor of California is fatal and that Newsom can't win because his tenure as governor of that state will be an albatross around his neck.
Yes.
Could very well be true. That being said, he's still the best candidate they got next to Kamala and Joe. He still is.
And so this is what I was going to say.
I take your point, but I think he's more electable than Biden. I really do.
What I was going to say and how I came from this perspective is that the Hunter Biden plea deal falling apart really was the sticking point, really was the thing that was going to, for sure, make Biden be the nominee.
Right, exactly.
And if you notice, when that plea deal fall apart, what did you notice in mainstream media? Oh, look at Biden's numbers. They're not that good. Morning Joe is starting to talk bad about Joe Biden. Oh, yeah, his age is a real problem. Then the CNN poll come out, and they're like, oh, no. Then the David Ignatius, the guy that he actually reads, come out and say Joe Biden should not run. It's because of the Hunter Biden stuff. That's what I was saying. I was like, this gives them a reason to go, yeah, this is too much, because you know what's going to come out. You know what can't come out is I'm sorry. Let me add this other part, because in the stream, I didn't. What made my point of view slightly different, I felt the Hunter Biden stuff with the impeachment inquiry together, because you know what can't come out if they get his bank records and they show he has all of this money, and they're going to be like, why do you have this money? And sticking with Joe Biden with the plea deal falling apart and them not wanting to answer questions about Hunter Biden, which leads them to the impeachment inquiry, Hunter Biden is the reason he has to be replaced, because there's too much. They're too exposed with Hunter Biden. If Joe Biden is the candidate, but let's finish out this clip right here, and then finish out our commentary here.
Was that he was taking as personal expenses, but marking them as business expenses, including expenses for prostitutes, for sex club memberships, and for hotel rooms for purported drug deals. One of the
that could be
also
work.
disclosed in an interview that Hunter Biden owed more than $2.2 million in unpaid taxes. And that is what Hunter Biden's attorneys are saying was the unauthorized disclosure here. Now, I just got comments in from Shapley's attorney, one of those whistleblowers. They're calling this lawsuit a frivolous smear by the Biden family attorneys, and they said that they didn't overstep their boundaries in the whistleblower protections. The IRS just got back to me. They're saying that they do not comment on pending litigation. Sarah?
All right, Kira Snell, we know you'll be watching this as this unfolds further. We appreciate you. Let me ask you now a question about Hunter Biden. He has been charged with other things after his case was thrown out, and now he is suing the Internal Revenue Service, alleging that the agents illegally released his tax information and that it failed to really protect his private records. Does he have a case?
Well, under Title 26, 18 U. Title 26, 6103. It's a geek section. I did this for 11 years. You are protected from disclosure of your returns. However, if there's an investigation or there's a proceeding involving your returns, the DOJ and the IRS can use it to investigate or to put forth a position. I don't know if that case has a lot of merit.
This is what I was speaking to. Do you think this high-priced lawyer doesn't know what this guy is saying? This is a strategy. This is not at all them thinking that they have merit to actually win this case. And he's stating the technical legal penal code or code. But I'm just saying, it's no way that this high-priced law firm doesn't know this about what he's saying here.
They should. They're a high-priced law firm. I mean, come on. They're supposed to be professionals. In theory, if you're so high-priced, you should know what the hell's going on. In theory, at least.
In theory.
Rossi, I love that you are giving us all literally the itsy-bitsy details of the case, because you know what the codes are in the law. And obviously,
they obviously did not want to really have to cover this. You can sense like an uneasiness when they have to cover Hunter Biden, and I kind of sensed it from her, at least, that talking about it, and the other one, that the other correspondent that she went to. But let's bring up the article that matches this. I'll use PBS only so that, since it's Hunter Biden, I didn't want to use a red, blue necessarily, so staunchly red or blue. So I just I picked this one to go with. So let's bring it up here. 1 second, guys. I gotta close.
Yeah, I mean, while you're bringing that up, I'll just add. It seems to me like if the whistleblowers were called in to testify, they had no choice but to answer questions as thoroughly and honestly as possible. Which means the lawsuit really wouldn't be against the IRS, since they were called in and compelled to testify. The lawsuit, if it's violation of privacy, would have to be against the Justice Department. But of course, he can't sue the Justice Department because it's his father's Justice Department, right?
That is true. That is true. And let me read just a little bit. I'm not at all going to be reading this whole thing. Hunter Biden sues IRS, says agent shared his oops. Is this not the right thing up there? Oh, shared his personal tax information. Sorry, there's a pop-up on my screen that you guys can't see. Hunter Biden sued the IRS on Monday, alleging that 2 agents who claimed interference in the case against him wrongly shared his personal tax information amid escalating legal and political struggles as the 2024 election looms. Now, this first sort of line speak to what I was just saying and why what we all were just saying, how he's probably going to be replaced because of this. Now, this is a case about Hunter Biden and his taxes, but you see how they have to talk about the struggles of the 2000 election. They only care about what's happening to Hunter Biden in the sense that how is it going to affect the election? That's really, and I'm not sure if his own dad only cares about him in that situation, but maybe I'm taking it too far. Let me continue with the article. The suit says the agents targeted and sought to embarrass Mr. Biden. Biden says federal whistleblowers protection sought by agents don't include the sharing of confidential information in press interviews and testimonies before Congress. The suit comes as a long-running investigation into Hunter Biden continues to unfold against a sharply political background, including impeachment inquiry aimed at his father, President Joe Biden. And it's funny, what I was just talking about, the two things, they actually bring up in this article as to this being reflecting on his father politically. And then the second point about the impeachment inquiry. All of this is being brought onto Joe Biden because of his son, Hunter Biden. And I'll bring that down. Any final sort of words on this before we got 2 more stories?
This is a clown. What it is it's a clown show, and we're being distracted by the fact that this is a shield in which the Democrats could potentially use to say, "Oh, well, there goes Biden. Bye bye. Time for another Democrat pick." Because again, they want to look for somebody to replace Joe Biden. The Bidens have always had scandals flying around them, and even all of us and everyone watching live, we all saw it play out in 2020. All of us in 2020, in 2020, and that is that there's so many things in which Biden has around him that it will eventually come back to haunt the Democrats in the vote blue no matter who crowd. So you reap what you sow, and why should any of us in our right minds defend you? Because what? You're triggered by Trump? I remember saying on the show that Trump was going to come back in 2024. He was going to do so out of pride and ego. So in other words, Democrats, this is what you have. We warned you about Biden, and now you have to live with it. So good luck, but I won't fight for you.
Yeah, that's well said. I don't have anything to add to that. In fact, I got to go refill my water, so I'm going to duck out for 1 second.
Do you?
Okay, cool.
Yeah, do you? Let's go ahead and shout out one more time our merch.
So if you
go to our website, go ahead. You're gonna say something. Go ahead.
Let me go ahead and filibuster here real quick. So, hey, everyone who's watching Revolutionary Blackout Network, did you know the best way to support Revolutionary Blackout Network is to check out their merch store, buy their merch, and show where you stand in solidarity. So that way, when people ask you, where did you get that awesome gear? You say, I went to Revolutionary Blackout merch store. Be sure to check it out in the links below.
Yes.
Put me in the game, coach. God damn, put me in the game, coach.
Perfect. All right. So you see the website scrolling down there at the bottom. Is it scrolling? Yeah, it'll be scrolling in a second. And then here is some of the merchandise. Actually, am I showing it? Oh, my bad. Everybody,
not yet.
I thought I was showing it. I had already switched to the other screen. All right, so let me show one more time. I meant to do this while you were out, Keaton, but it's been slow, sir. So back to this. All right, now you can see the different merch here. Let's go back and show something else. I showed these two. Let's show a different item, because what you also can get in different colors is the tote bags. Also come in different colors. So let me see if I can show an example. Let's get a different. Let's do the unserious one.
Ooh.
So this is the unserious tote bag, and oops, where are the colors at? I thought they had different colors. Oh, there's only one color. I guess it's different colors depending on which one you pick. And I picked the one that does only have the one color. But there is another one I did want to show you, and it's another shirt. I want to show you the ACOB one. I showed you the class war is needed one. Where's the ACAB? ACAB shirt. Down here, there's the NATO, there's a class warfare. This is the abolish. That's abolish police. That's the lesser of two evil. Here's another good one, ACAB. And the reason I like this color, this burgundy color, I think I'm going to get this. My wife says she likes it. So I think I'm going to get this one for me, the ACAB one. But it also comes in these colors here, this color here, and also white. But like I said, I like the burgundy, or maroon is what it's called. But this and many other items you can check out on our website. It's scrolling there at the bottom. I'll bring that down. And now let's get into our last two.
Hey, do you guys sell any merchandise that will not get me murdered by my redneck neighbor?
Anything? Probably just the one with the logo. Probably just the RBN logo one. Because it's abolished ICE, it's abolished ACAB, it's unserious, maybe. I don't know. Maybe
yeah, that could work. That could work. Yeah,
that could work. But that's a good question. So, and maybe we need to add a little more non-confrontational gear. We need to have like a section, non-confrontational section, the squad section right here.
Oh, yeah, the squad section, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
that's what we gotta do. So that's pretty funny. All right, so let's bring this up. Let me share Bill Maher. These are all quick stories. None of these are going to be more than maybe 10 minutes long, fellas. So we're not going to be here much longer. Let's start with Bill Maher. Then we got Kulinski versus Lauren Boebert. And maybe if we got time, we can throw in the Jamaal Bowman at the climate change. The tweet he puts out, man, is just terrible.
No.
But yeah, but let's do this one. This is Bill Maher. Now, just to kind of preface this, Drew Barrymore either has some sort of show, and she was going to be coming back, bringing her staff back to bring it back to production. And while the strike is going on, and she got tremendous backlash, like horrible backlash, been called out, all types of things, right? Then, now previous to that, Bill Maher had announced that he was going to be resuming production, but he hadn't done so. After Drew Barrymore gets the response she gets, he now comes out with this, and let me read his tweet. So it looks like Keaton and Kit that he's backing off his scab ways, at least for now. And here is Bill Maher. My decision to return to work was made when it seemed nothing was happening and there was no end in sight to this strike. Now that both sides have agreed to go back to the negotiating table, I'm going to delay the return of real time for now and hope they can finally get this done. And of course, Nico House is already there. One, had either of you seen this yet? And two,
yeah, we covered it.
What is your reaction? So I like it when you covered it already. That's so maybe you've had time to reflect and have an additional sort of point you wanted to make. You know, you ever had that? You ever go through the part where you do a segment? He's like, man, I forgot to say this. I wish I said that. So tell me, what say you about this topic, about Bill Maher sort of backing off being called a scab? Because I actually covered the segment when he said he was resuming, and it was a lot of backlash for him. But Keaton and then Kit.
Yeah, so we covered this. We covered Barrymore and Maher as one segment when they were both set to cross the picket line. Then we covered it again when Barrymore went back on her initial plan to resume the show. And then I couldn't clip that segment because by the time I would have clipped that segment, the second part of my segment became obsolete because I actually predicted Bill Maher would not go back. I just think he's pretty much an unrepentant prick at this point. And so I was very surprised that he actually did this. But his reasoning here is obviously bullshit. He's not doing this because there's been some breakthrough in negotiations. He's doing this because of the backlash. And one of the things that I said in my original take was that, if you cross the picket line and you start these shows back up without the writers and in betrayal of the writers, how are you going to get writers to work for you again when the strike is over? Like, who would go and work for a show where the showrunner has pretty much said in every way possible that he doesn't care about the writers, he doesn't value their input, he thinks he could do the show without them? Why would you go and work for that show even after the strike? So I think that's what Bill Maher is ultimately came to here. With Drew Barrymore, it honestly seems like she did not know better. Like those statements that she put out got trolled so badly because the irony of it is she can't write. Like those statements are written at a second grade writing level. So like the idea that she was going to attempt the show without writers is just laughable. But honestly, in her case, I don't really think she understood the implications of what she was doing. I don't feel like she really knew better. And so water under the bridge when it comes to her. When it comes to him, no, this is a diplomatic answer to try and save face because he knew how badly it was going to be received. The writers were going to picket his show. And, Bill Maher, he doesn't really even try to be progressive anymore, but he still presents himself as a Democrat, more or less, who they try to present themselves, laughably, of course, as a party of labor. And so it just would have been, he wouldn't have been able to rub the stink off of that if he went back, and I think he came to his senses.
Yes.
So this whole thing was Hollywood. I am rather pleased that I'm seeing it collapse with the studio execs as they're heading into the red. The people who I feel sorry for are the writers and the actors who are trying to get in and stagehands. These are the people who I do feel sorry for because they have been abused and stepped on by a system that chews them up, spits them out, promises opportunities, and doesn't deliver. The big name actors, the studio executives, may they cannibalize each other and destroy their imagery. In many ways, what I want to see happen after this entire Hollywood debacle, because with Drew Barrymore, she should have known better. Bill Maher, this is just an asshole trying to save face. There's nothing to say anything more about Bill Maher. Okay, you want to know who Bill Maher is? Check him out in the film House 2. That's his real character, where he runs off with the two guys' girlfriend. That's it. A scumbag. That's all he is. But what I would like to see out of this destruction of Hollywood, because I want to see Hollywood destroyed for petty reasons, very petty reasons. I don't like Hollywood. I think it's filled with scumbag executives and producers and directors and the mainstream actors. The lower tier ones, they're trying to get by and they're denied opportunities. But again, what I want to see happen with the destruction of Hollywood is perhaps a creation of new hubs across the country for people to once again embrace a new wave of creativity, because what we're getting out of Hollywood is nothing but corporate sludge. None of it's imaginative, nothing is good, and anything that is gaining its feet is quickly canceled by the streaming services or Hollywood, or either that consumed by Hollywood and then spit out into something else that was not supposed to be. So that's my analysis on all this. Drew, I love you in ET, but come on, you got to know your point where you got to step away. And finally, hey, Whoopi Goldberg's part of SAG, isn't she? How come she's still on The View? Has anyone talked to Whoopi or The View?
The whole view is back, and they don't have any writers, and So they're kind of getting side eye too, but they're the View. I don't know why they get a pass. But somebody did a segment on that, and I was listening to. I think it was a couple of days ago. But here's a couple of. This is a funny. I guess this is a meme, and it says, "I couldn't find any scab celebrities to come on my show, so I'm going to delay the return."
Like I said, scumbag. That's
now.
all he is. Go see the film House 2, right? It's just a lackluster sequel to House 1, but that's who Bill Maher is. Bill Maher is a scumbag who will run off with your girlfriend, smoke pot, and says he agrees with you, and that's it. That's all he is. He's a scumbag.
Let me read. This is from Chuck Modi. Quote, "My decision to return to work was made when I thought I might not receive so much pushback for being a scab. Now that millions of you handed my ass to me, I reconsidered."
Right.
Bill Maher translated. I think I'll leave it there. I think that was my favorite translation out of all the ones that I saw today. But now let's pivot again. Like I said, gentlemen, these are going to be some very, very short, quick hitters right here. And now I want to pivot to another story, and I'm curious. Hang on here. All right. I'm curious to know if either of you know about this story, heard about this. For some reason, Kit, I feel like you heard about this story and you have a mean tweet. You quote tweeted it or you did something to it, but let's bring this up. Okay. Oh, actually, this is not it. Let me just go from here instead of changing it. Let me go to right here. This here. Had you seen this tweet yet?
It's still loading.
Oh, so
Jesus Christ, Kyle, what a scumbag. Look, here's the thing. Can I talk, or do you want to lead off with the story?
No, go ahead. First, had you seen this before today?
Yes, I have. I actually did a video segment that I did.
Oh,
I covered this.
Okay.
I covered this morning. So look, here's the thing. Laura Boebert having a night out, date night, whatever. She's a politician, right?
But are we allowed to show that footage? Because I might do it tomorrow. Is that like a guideline thing?
I haven't.
I don't know.
I haven't shown the footage. I mean, but you know. I talked about it, but I haven't gotten hit for anything about it yet. But look, I don't agree with Representative Boebert, but she was on a night out of town. I find it suspicious that the camera and the film crew, or at least the film was focused on her. Yes, she was vaping. Yes, she was getting groped, and yes, she groped her partner. But a lot of things aren't adding up because apparently this guy is also a Democrat. I don't know if this might have been a setup to her, but the fact that Kyle Kulinski is going to start tweet out a sexist thing like you should stick to giving theater hand jobs. Again, maybe there was a better, more mature response, but maybe that's too much to ask from Kyle Kulinski in regards to this. But like, hey, don't compare woke politics to the military-industrial complex losing an $80 million jet or something like that. But no, he goes after a character like a scumbag. And I think it says a lot about how he views politicians or people who are not in his sphere of relatability. This is just a way to attack somebody who was enjoying the night out was a date. Okay. I can disagree with Slow Boebert, but guess what? Guys, gals, ladies, find a guy that will grab your boob like Laura got her boob grabbed. Guys, find a gal that will grab your wang bone like how Laura grabbed her date's wang bone, okay? I want that for you. Be it libertarian, Republican, Democrat, or Green, Boomer, Gen Xer, Millennial, or Gen Z. I hope that happens to you and enjoy a night out watching a family-friendly theater version of Beetlejuice, okay? I hope you can have that for yourselves.
Go ahead, Keaton. Go ahead, Keaton.
I agree with Kit 100%. I think the video is wonderful. I think it makes her look great.
Human.
Who's not happy for them?
I'd be happy that happened to me. Like
this was the moment of healing that this country needed. I really feel like. I mean, because who doesn't, look at that video and think, to be young and in love and grabbing each other in a theater. I mean, it's a nice moment. Who got hurt in that? Who got hurt in that moment? It was a nice moment.
People that doesn't happen to.
moment, right? Yeah, people that doesn't happen to. Yeah, exactly. Like, how could you begrudge them that? How? To me, it was a completely innocent thing. I mean, that's what teenagers do. So I mean, who cares? I mean, it was a moment of fun and affection and pleasure, and who the hell cares? I think she looked great.
Yeah, she did.
Hold on, guys.
Because of that.
Let me read her tweet. Let me read her tweet at least.
Who could have a problem with this?
It's so out of place, though. This is what she's saying. The military is asking for the public's help in finding an F-13 jet that went missing. We're talking about a $80 million jet. This is what happens when military leaders are focused on woke ideology than actually running a competent military. So what is Kyle offended about in this tweet
I know
that will make
why.
him say this? What is he offended about? Go ahead, Keaton, and then Keaton.
Because when he goes on a date with his mom, I mean Crystal, she says, "Keep your hands to yourself, mister." They don't do that kind of stuff. Maybe Kyle's thinking like, "Oh, Mom, I mean Crystal, I mean wifey, can't we do that?" I don't know. Why would you tweet that out, man? Because I'm thinking that seems like a little jelly. Because Kyle, would you like it if somebody saw you and Crystal doing that? I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so I mean, I think he's just trying to pick a fight with her over the theater incident. I think he probably would have tweeted that in response to anything that she put out there. But yeah, I mean, look, it is ironic that he would say that in defense of the military, right? I assume that's what he's saying there.
Yeah, just not clear on what he's upset about. That's like, are you upset about us having that they lost the jet? Are you upset that she said woke ideology? Like, what exactly are you upset about? But let's get a couple of reaction to it. And here's an indie news or indie left news, and it says, "You should be complaining about the 80 million we spent on the F-35 assholes, but you have to play team sports." And that would be my critique, is that, wow, $80 million for a jet. That's the first thing that
was flying by itself. Holy cow, that's actually impressive. The pilot ejected out, and they asked the public, "Hey, listen, public, even though we have billions of dollars in the military industrial complex, get out your binoculars and help us find this F-35 jet." Like, what do you mean? You guys have those super spy satellites. Hollywood says you have it all the time. You need me to find your jet? Get out of here, man.
Just two more. Kyle gives DNC hand jobs. I like that one. Maybe I should retweet that one. I actually like that. That's a good, put it on a card. Here's another one. Kyle, would you rather admit Democrats and Biden are Nazi funding bastards extraditing a journalist who exposed their crimes, or stick to giving theater hand jobs? I got to read this one down here from Angel Rivera. What a sexist tweet by Kulinski. "I thought liberals were all about female liberation, ban, freedom, not to be slut-shamed. Kulinski and most white liberal PMCs are just hypocrites." And
agreed.
And on there, any other comments?
Yeah, I got.
Well, you just know that was a genuine moment of affection.
Yeah,
and, because I mean, when you think about it, I know the lights were off, and I know they didn't know they were on camera. But
which
you
I find
had to be
suspicious.
really hot and in the moment to. You're a sitting member of Congress, and a guy grabs your boob in the theater, and rather than push his hand away, you grab his dick.
You grabbed his Johnson. I would have been like,
wait, I didn't know all of this. Wait, what? She does that?
Well, I don't know
Yeah,
if
she
stuck
grabbed
his
your
hand-
Johnson. No, dude.
It may have been above.
Goes like,
it may have been above the fabric. I don't know if she went in the fabric, but it was
Oh, yeah, but
definitely
still,
it was
but still,
definite
yeah.
groping. Yeah,
I mean, it was a firm grab. No. I saw the video. It was
This
a
is
firm,
a theater.
yeah,
Is
it was
this a ballet
theater. Yeah,
It's
no.
a theater.
They went to see a family-friendly
Beetlejuice
play of Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice. Yeah.
And the thing is, she even makes the face like she's like, yeah, like she bites her lip like, I'm grabbing your Johnson. I don't think if that happened to me, I'd be like, whoa. Oh, okay, I know where this is going. Like, come on, I'd be happy. I'm more annoyed that it was cameras on them, and for me, my paranoid mind is saying this probably looks like a setup to make her look bad because the
Worst
guy
setup ever. Backfired completely.
Yeah,
She looks
but
fantastic.
dude, not only does she look fantastic, but I'm like, I hope I could find a gal who could do that on date night. You know. I mean, that would be great. That would be like, I wasn't expecting this. I thought we were going to go to the Pottery Barn after the theater and have a nice little drink. But okay. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. You want to play that fun game? Great.
All right, I got a couple footage right here. So yeah, actually, let me play this better. Now it's a longer version, and you have got to see. You got to see. You've got okay. So all right, I got it set now. Now I can share it. All right, so let me share it.
Oh wait,
to close this segment here.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. One other thing here too. Apparently, there was an article, and I tweeted this out. I was trying to find the tweet while we were looking for it, but apparently, Lauren said, Laura, Representative Boebert, actually had to break it off, so she won't be seeing that guy again. So I was rooting for them.
Yeah, that's really too bad. They gave in to the woke mob.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's listen.
I was rooting for them.
This actually makes, I can't believe this. This actually makes corporate media just so they can say something to Lauren Boebert. You're actually, Chris, because I would think he has a little bit of say over what segments he does. You're actually going to do this segment and pretend like you don't want to do it. Let's listen.
I truly hate to have to deliver this news, but it appears that Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert of Colorado has not been honest with us. Not with the American people, not with her constituents in Colorado. She has lied about what happened to get her ejected from a recent performance of Beetlejuice the musical. Earlier in the week, we brought you this story, first reported by the folks over at the Denver Post. On Sunday evening, the Congresswoman and a male companion were escorted out of a downtown Denver theater, quote, accused by venue officials of vaping, singing, recording, and, quote, causing a disturbance during the performance. According to an usher quoted in the theater's incident report, the patrons said they would not leave. I told them I would be going to get the Denver police. They said, go get them. Now, the Congresswoman seriously downplayed the situation after this news broke, posting she, quote, pleads guilty to laughing and singing too loud, hand covering mouth emoji. Her campaign manager.
What was she supposed to say? She got groped? Like is that the expectation? Like, what do you expect her to say at this point? Yeah, like this is so.
By the way, her campaign manager's name is Drew Sexton. That's like so funny.
Okay.
Manager took it even further, confirming that he called the stunning and salacious rumors that Boebert is indeed a supporter of the performing arts gasp who enthusiastically enjoy the performance. Well, thanks to the good folks at 9 News in Denver, we now have the security footage from inside that theater. Take a look at their investigation into what really happened.
Oh, come on.
Boebert. Say it 3 times and she appears in security video from a weekend performance of Beetlejuice. With the
now we get it in color.
Out of the theater for being disruptive.
Oh, no, we don't, because
the DCPA says she was vaping. Boebert's team denied that, said the haze was from fog machines in the show. That claim goes up in smoke when you see the video.
Oh, come on. Come on. Stop.
That was a bad joke. Oh, it goes up in smoke when you see the video.
The pregnant woman sitting behind Boebert told the Denver Post she asked her to stop vaping, and
Yeah,
Boebert
get out of
refused.
here, lady.
Her one-woman show continued, taking flash photos, raising her hands and dancing, often the only one clapping or standing up in the crowd. Boebert occasionally took a break from being disruptive to enjoy the company of her male companion. He
As she
briefly
should.
had a grasp on the situation before...
He briefly had a grasp on the situation.
Who cares? I mean,
Why are they telling jokes like this?
That man shoot his shot. He shoot a shot, and she responded back in turn. So the man was on target. I mean, come on.
Oh
God
man,
damn it.
that's hilarious. All right, so let's get back. Let's finish this up and get out of here, fellas. Let's finish this up. Where was I?
Kit has a red eye
here.
to Denver that he has to catch after this. He's got some theater tickets that he wants to
I-
share with
hold on,
Lauren
wait,
Boebert.
Since she's single, she's back on the market.
I
Hey,
know.
Representative
That's what I mean.
Boebert,
You got to get over there quick.
holler at me, all right? Because
She ain't gonna be on the market long.
I can fix her, guys.
Word
I
is
can
out
fix
on
her.
her.
I
Yeah.
can fix her. She'll be a progressive next election cycle. I can fix her. I can do it.
And told Boebert she had to leave. The theater's incident report says Boebert pulled the "Don't you know who I am" card on the way out, giving theater employees the single
get it,
finger
girl.
salute.
God damn, that dress is tight on her. I love it. I love it.
So, let me see if this shows the groping part. You said wasn't that the whole reason we was looking at this? That's just
Yeah,
a video.
yeah.
All right, that's just a picture, but it's no big deal. I think we saw enough of this. We could close this story unless you guys
I can fix
had
her.
more
I can
to
fix
add.
her.
You can go ahead.
I can fix her. I can fix her, gentlemen. I could do it. She'll be a progressive. She'll be fine for Medicare for all, student debt forgiveness, all of it. I can.
She's
do
old
it.
enough now to be Trump's vice president. I think he should pick her after that.
Oh,
I mean, he wants to. You know, he wants to now.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? I'll be the second man, the vice president's boy toy. I'll do it, guys. I can fix it. Just put me in the game. I could do it.
All right, let's move to this final story. I think we can fit it in since we're ahead of schedule. Probably because we have 3 people instead of 5, so we're getting done with the
goes
show
fast.
a lot sooner.
Streamline,
Yeah, with less people. But this is Jamaal Bowman virtue signaling about climate change. I mean, we'll get into why this is virtual signaling in a second, but let's at least
Do
play
we have
his
to? Can we watch
own-
Lauren Boebert get groped again?
Yeah, can we please? Pretty please.
Well, actually, let me read the caption first. Let
This
me read
is
his
pretty
caption.
lame compared to that.
Yeah, it's pretty. It is. But let me read it because listen, they understand that youth enthusiasm is low, along with the other categories. So he's specifically targeting, and I think this whole march was specifically targeting Gen Z to try to get them out to vote. But Gen Z, we see you, we hear you, and we support your fight in the climate crisis. It's our fight. You're a human too, Jamaal. We have your back. You are a passionate, informed, and engaged. This sounds like a lot of pandering and like trying to butter them up. Generation, you are leading. Yeah, you are leading the way and demanding action, and we stand with you. Here's why Democratic voters are listening. We know that climate change is a real and urgent threat. We are already seeing the devastating impacts of climate change, from more extreme weather events to rising sea levels. We agree with you that we cannot afford to wait any longer to take action. The U.S. government must stop subsidizing its own self-destruction. In Congress, I'll fight to work to pass bold climate legislation, hold polluters accountable, and protect our communities from the impacts of climate change. Now, let's talk about this part here. Hold polluters accountable. Does that include the military-industrial complex? Second question. Do you know a lot of legislation, climate legislation to be specifically, excludes the military-industrial complex specifically? So, and Jamaal Bowman is one of the guys, one of the people who have consistently, and I think at every instance, have voted to send more money to Ukraine. And as we reported yesterday in the story I did with Nick, do you know one Abrams tank, requires 60 gallons of 60 gallons of gasoline per hour. Per hour, it requires 60 gallons of gasoline, one tank. I forget how many we're sending to them. But if you want to affect climate, stop funding the military-industrial complex. That is actually the most significant step that we can take towards any sort of climate action, is eliminating the military-industrial complex spending, eliminating the fossil fuels, and so forth. I'm not going to read the rest of this nonsense, but I do want to play his video. And this is literally these are just campaign events for them. These are not at all serious attempts to bring about any sort of change. I'm not saying the people there. There are people there that want this to be significant change. But this guy, this elected leader who's voting to pollute, who's voting for military industrial complex that is the #1 polluter, this is just campaign stuff for him. He comes here, shake a few hands, take a few pictures because he believes he's a celebrity, gives a speech, post it on his own Twitter so people can say, that's a climate fighter right there, even though he's not actually doing anything and actually working against it.
Are you with me?
Oh my
This is
God.
not just about saving our democracy. This is not just about saving our humanity. This is about saving the only planet we call home. And it has to be the craziest thing in the world that the U.S. government actually subsidizes its own self-destruction.
No.
Yeah, see, so you put that in contrast with what you just said. Yeah, of course.
Can you pause it here for a second? I don't mean to cut you off here, but here's the thing, guys. I'm gonna ruin the mood in 3, 2, 1. This is the same event that Dr. Cornel West was at. So not only was he with the Democrats and corporate sellouts, but also Jamaal Bowman is also promoting the fact that, hey, the U.S. is subsidizing, but hey, aren't you voting for the military-industrial complex as well, Jamaal? And then finally, folks, again, how many times have we seen people like Jamaal Bowman pander to this? And then also, this video is 1 minute 51 seconds longer than Dr. Cornel West's video. Okay, so that means more clear and more coherent
That's crazy.
than
That's
Dr.
crazy.
West's video. All right, there you go. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
If he was able to get this angle of video, why wasn't Cornel West able to get this angle of video?
Lazy campaign manager. That's why. Lazy campaign.
That's weird. But let's finish the clip here.
You need David Axelrod in your corner to get a video camera pointed at you, apparently. It's the big money.
The fossil fuel companies that are killing our planet. That ain't right. That ain't right. And we continue to give almost $1 trillion a year to our military-industrial complex.
This guy voted for 150 billion so far to Ukraine.
Yep. Including, look, I mean, I say this a lot. Nick said this a lot. Nick fired off a couple of great tweets about this event, including one of those hotspot videos. The destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline was the single greatest methane release in human history. It was the single greatest man-made act of climate antagonism ever. And if you don't believe that the United States did it, then I have a bridge in Death Valley I could sell you. But according to our own intelligence, the Ukrainians did it. And this weekend, not only did this march take place, but Zelensky went to the UN in New York and started lecturing the world about climate change himself when our own intelligence said they blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. So this is just, absolute gaslighting, absolute bullshit. And look, this whole thing is just the whole thing is just religion at this point. It's so obvious that these people aren't doing anything about this. I mean, that's what the Planet of the Humans movie was largely about the failings of the green movement and how, especially when it comes to democratic politics, they have set up the very convenient foil of the Republican Party, who they label as climate deniers. Well, if the other side is a climate denier, that means climate acknowledgement is the counter to that. But acknowledgement itself is not action. And there is no action. And at this point, there really can be no action. In that Planet of the Humans movie, there's a scene where the filmmaker goes to a college campus and he talks to this philosophy professor, and he says, every civilization creates its own immortality myth, right? Every society creates an immortality myth. And it's looking more and more like the green movement is an immortality myth for liberals. It's this movement that says, if we only replace plastic bags with reusable bags, if we could only replace fossil fuel cars with electric vehicles, we can continue our way of life forever. And our society will never crumble, and our civilization will never crumble, and our species will never go extinct. That's nonsense. All species rise and fall.
Yep.
Ours is on
Thank
the
you.
way out. It will be gone fairly soon. Not in 100 years or 200 years, but, who knows, it'll be gone fairly soon. And that's not a tragedy. That's nothing to be afraid of. That is the world at work. The world will survive us. The famous George Carlin bit, the planet is fine. It's the people that are fucked.
Oh,
It's
shake
okay,
us off
and
like a
it's
bad
okay.
case of fleas.
Yeah.
Actually,
exactly.
to your point, I want to share something to the screen if I can, because it's from the New York Times. Suspicions multiply as Nord Stream sabotage remains unsolved. Intelligence leaks surrounding the sabotage of pipelines. Do you see it?
Is it a link? Oh, the link. Oh, the link.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
my bad.
Yeah. Here. No. I actually shared it in the screen. You see it?
I haven't seen it in it yet. Yeah, that's the part I was waiting for. Okay,
Yeah,
so
there it
now
is.
I see it. Now I see it. Okay, now let me
So
add that. There you go.
It is suspicions multiply. Again, I'm just going to read this part here. This came out, I forget when this came out exactly. April 7th of 2023. Suspicions multiply as Nord Stream sabotage remains unsolved. Intelligence leaks surrounding the sabotage of pipelines have provided more questions than answers. It may be in no one's interest to reveal more. So stop asking questions, poor people. That's what it says. It's not in your interest to reveal more. Stop asking questions. Thank you, Erica Solomon. So there you go. Stop asking questions. And it's not in your best interest to find out why we have a huge methane leak where the Nord Stream pipeline was once at. That's all. Just share with you guys. That's all.
AOC was at this event too. Similar speech to Bowman. Yep.
Ugh.
Who was at the? Who else did you say? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Say that again.
Well, it was Bowman. There was AOC at this event as well.
Yeah. All right. So let's let him finish out this speech, I guess he's giving.
Which is the #1 contributor to carbon emissions in the world.
So, as I was speaking earlier, so he does admit it and he does know it. So how can you then vote for it? That makes this worse.
Yep.
It makes it worse that you can quote the statistic and know that they're the #1 contributor as you vote for Abram tanks that spends 60 gallons per hour per tank. Like and then it's like 20 of them or more. Like it's so bizarre, and that's just the tanks. That's not everything else. They are literally the biggest users of fossil fuels is the military industrial complex. Let's continue, Jamaal Bowman.
And we give it $1 trillion a year. So as you know, Washington, it's not broken. It is operating by design. It has been designed for destruction. It has been designed for us to scratch, claw, fight, and kill each other because of our racial, ethnic,
But you're part of
and
it.
sexuality differences. But the new American Revolution includes every single one of us. Not just the 1/10 of 1%, not just property owning white men. It's about everyone.
It's truly underwhelming. Like sometimes when I watch these people, these are our best that we've got in the government. Like that's supposed to save us. Like these are the people that technically have similar policies that have a terrible strategy not to achieve those policies. It's like, man, if these are the people that's in charge of sort of stewarding us through this process, we are so fucked. And this guy right here, like for you to be able, like it's such a not a thing now to be a hypocrite. Vote for a little war. I'm against. I'm a climate change fighter, and I'm voting like that dynamic. It's such a common thing for our elected leaders to be able to do both. Like those are counter. Do you understand that, Jamaal Bowman? You are for climate, but the very thing that you have your hands in as far as voting for is funding the military industrial complex. Just bizarre. But any final words, Keaton, and then Kit, and then we can close here.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it's just such absolute gaslighting. This guy's up there, rallying all these young people. And, look, I watched some other scenes from that climate protest of the Sunrise Movement getting their chants going and all their fucking bullshit. And I got to say, I personally have never rooted harder for a tsunami in my life than when I watched that. But yeah, I mean, it's horrible. It's awful. It is cult leader stuff. There is a very religious aspect to this, where we all gather and we affirm each other's philosophies and ideas, but it's not backed up with any action, and whatever action could come of it is obviously insufficient at this point. I just want to address what Future Homestead said in the chat there. She says, if we're all doomers like Keaton, what's the point of revolution? Well, as I said, we're not going extinct tomorrow. There's still plenty of life to be lived before that happens. I'm not saying we're all doomed in a week, so there's no point in anything. No, I think this species probably has another 1,000 years left. There will be deteriorating quality of life, but I think we will probably have that in us before civilization totally crumbles. But I think we've already peaked, and I think we're on our way out. And I don't think that's anything to fear in the long term. That's not to say you don't fight to make things better. In the interim, obviously, we're all here. We got kids, we got grandkids. There's the next generation that we should work for. There's a lot of spiritual value in that. But overall, I think clinging to this idea that we can solve the problem of, as some people have said, infinite growth on a finite planet. That's just not a solvable problem. You can't have infinite growth on a planet with finite resources. It's not possible. And to convince yourself it's possible is to convince yourself that there's a paradise that you will ascend to in the next world. If that gives you some comfort, then that's fine. I'm not here to beat up on religious people. Whatever gets you through the day, whatever gives you meaning is fine. No judgment there. But these gatherings with such where a guy speaks with such urgency about the need to save the planet, while as CJ and Kit, you guys all pointed out, the guy's supporting the Nord Stream bomber, and is voting for all these packages to Ukraine. So what actually are you doing there? And what I'll close with, and you guys are going to think I'm joking, no matter how seriously I put this, you're going to think I'm joking. But who did America a greater service this weekend? Jamaal Bowman gaslighting the audience there, or Lauren Boebert giving everyone a genuine display of affection and love and charm and warmth and pleasure? She gave us so much more than he did this weekend.
Exactly.
She wins.
She wins. Oh, now she wins.
Hands down. Yeah. Hands down.
No
pun intended.
No pun intended, indeed. Look, to add on your point, Keaton, look, folks, everything that has a beginning has an end, including the human species. Okay. Exactly. There's been animals that have been around longer than we have. So it's a natural cycle. We have to embrace it. When I lost my grandpa in February, he would say the same thing to me too. Like, Kit, someday I will be dead. And yes, everyone, we will all one day die, from scary sharks to cute little puppies to you and me and everybody in between. We're all going to pass away, and the human species does have its due date. We're probably around for another 1,000, maybe 2,000 years. I'll be generous, but these are cycles. Check out Fall Civilization podcast. You'll see the empires of old antiquity, and you'll realize that the stories are shockingly similar to what we're dealing with now. All those ancient empires, they had their corruption. They had their high point, and then they had the decline, like how we're having our decline. This all happens. Make as much joy as you can in your life and try and fight for a better future. That doesn't mean give up, because no, I'm not being a doomer here, and neither is Keaton, neither is CJ. We fight for a better future as best as we can. And you know what? An ideal situation, Maybe we can get off this rock. Maybe the human species survives for another 10,000 years. Who knows?
Yeah, so
Who
be nice
knows?
to Elon. He's
Yeah,
trying to get us off. He's trying to get us out of here.
Yeah. So let's be nice to each other. Let's try and fight for a better future. Let's try and work with each other. Okay. And look, worst case scenario, according to Elon, we got 5 more years until AI takes over. Either it'll be benevolent or it'll kill us. So if you're on a date, guys, grab that girl's boob. She might grab your Johnson back. Shoot your shot. We got 5 years left. Go on that adventure. Save up for that trip. Talk to that girl that won't date you. Ladies, talk to that guy that won't shoot your shot. We got 5 years left, maybe, according to Elon. And that's the worst case scenario. So make life count. Just grab it by the boob or by the Johnson or whatever. And
well,
kid, you'll be happy.
In all seriousness, that is why Russell went to Italy this year, went to India this year, because he is thinking there might not be too many years left where you have the opportunity to just travel freely and enjoy yourself.
In December of 2024, I'm flying out to visit Japan again. I want to see Osaka, so I want to go there.
Beautiful.
So there you go. That's what I'm going to do.
Let's get to the super chats. Some of these you might want to chime in, but we're going to go through these pretty quickly. So there's 18 here. We're locked in on 18 reads. If any more comes in, thank you for the super chat, but we're only reading the 18 that have come through so far. We'll start at the end. Oops, I was already showing that. And I clicked it. If you endorse the duopoly, you favor capitalism, military, money laundering, police, violating sovereignty of resource, rich countries polluting the environment, imperialism, fascism, and crushing the working class. Thank you for that super chat, ARJ 1997. Here is Capt Vader. I believe that's how you say it.
Yeah.
Let me put that up there. All right. Mistake was, you know what? It's a series. Let me make, I think I might have to read his in order because there's 3 in order by the same person, and it says he made a mistake there. So let's go in order here. This is the first one. Under SAG's network television code, talk shows are allowed to air. Drew's show has a syndication contract deal and is required to air on a certain amount of episodes per season. I do know the difference. Let's see you go through this here. By not using writers nor have hosts and guests discuss and promote struck work, they wouldn't be violating either union's rule. They weren't scabbing. Yeah, they were, and I'll explain. Either way, yeah, they are, and I'll explain.
Because you're still
second,
crossing the picket line. You're still generating profits for the studios.
Right.
And the network.
Mistake was they didn't consult unions to air show and get IATSE.
That's the stage
IATSE crew back to work and be in solidarity with the strike. Blindsiding unions. Talk shows during the OLED strike still aired. Right, but yeah, that's still a scab. You're still crossing the picket line. You're supposed to show solidarity by not the people who aren't giving the contract to the worker, in this case the writer, and the owner's not giving it to them. You're not supposed to go and make money for those people who are not giving the workers what they want, and that's what makes them a scab. So let's continue. If any of you want to chime in, please do so when we get to something. Some of these are kind of straightforward, so they may not be chime in worthy because they're not as explicit or crazy or anything like that. A salacious, great panel, RBN, my daily dose of realness. Next one here, I think that's a pound. I think that's a symbol for a pound, and I think that's log. The last super chat, thank you. That was Puts the Mouse. And this one is from Log 66. I believe that's how you say it.
He calls himself Laugh, but that's his name.
Laugh.
He's one of ours, yeah. Hey, Laugh. Thanks, Laugh.
Thank you, Laugh. FYI, the Katie Halper Forced to Vote Roundtable is part of a 6-hour stream Katie has a Forced to Vote playlist on her YouTube channel. Still watching it. That where you got that earlier, Keaton?
That's what I was referring to. Yeah, and it was the Katie Halper stream. Thank you, Lef. I might go check that out actually.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen any of that. This one from Sam. Thank you for this one. Stoller also called China the next Nazi Germany on that call. I assume that is freaking ridiculous.
God damn it.
Here's another one. David Sirota is a saboteur just like Peter Daou. I still can't believe they picked Peter Daou. Especially after he got roasted for Marianne Williamson. But anyway, Cenk is taking credit he didn't earn. Sunshine Movement did the sit-in, and AOC ran into the activists when going to speak with Pelosi, acting like, yeah, that is true. She stumbled upon them,
So
and
they
they
were
asked
there
her,
already.
and she was like, yeah,
Right, she joined them. Right, that's right.
Yeah,
she
she was like,
joined
yeah, I'll join them. I do remember that. All right, here's another one. Make sure to play the very end of the video. And you
That
were
was the
saying the
Cenk
same
thing,
thing,
yeah.
Keaton. Yeah, you were saying the same thing. That guy, boy, he just could not let it go. He's the type that has to always have the last word. Here's another one. Cenk got crushed by Bree again. He's a union buster and advocated for voting for Rick Caruso for LA mayor. Yes, he did. A pro-cop, anti-homeless Republican billionaire. Yeah, I don't understand how he doesn't get the critique people have. Now, he may say, hey, I disagree that this means I'm right-wing, but you can't act like you don't get why people have the opinions they have about you moving to the right. Western Good says we need a shirt that says preface. That'll be cool. Maybe we'll get that for the merch store. Here's another one. Did it pop up? My computer is moving a little slow, so sometimes I click and it takes a while. All right. CJ, did you get the XDM about archive workaround? I got the work. I did get a DM. I don't know if it's specifically, but I did get a few DMs about the workaround for archives. And the ones I got so far required like downloading shit. I'm looking for a remedy where I literally just have to put the link in a thing and it gives me something, it generates something else, not downloading like an extension. I'm not looking to do that. This one here, Westenstein equal book smart, Daou equals street smart. He is an opportunist, likely intended to get the results he already has, undermining the campaign. That is true, and I agree. Thank you, Janice, for that. And Two-Car, I think that's how you say Two-Car. I didn't shout out the name, but Two-Car was a previous super chat. I think we're getting down to the last few here. This one named My Taco. Daou said he is compromised. I think I read this earlier. Daou said he has compromised his principles to elect the first woman president, but I bet the changed because he changes. When he thinks he should, I question his judgment and decision-making of Dr. West. Excuse me. Next one. Go ahead.
Speaking of which, Dr. West just tweeted out, our struggle for justice against fossil fuel industry intensifies. It's tweets and imagery of the protest. And I'm like, okay, is there a video of your full speech? And no, there isn't. It's not.
There's gotta be a video of that.
It's only photos.
Weird.
It's only photos.
I mean, did he speak on the fly? Did they just call him up to the stage and say, hey, can you come up here? Unless it was that dynamic, I guess. But other than that, yeah. But even still, nobody had a camera on their phone that they could stand in front of you or close enough to where they can get you head on. Thank you, Biden71, for the super sticker. And this is the last one. Jay the Informant. No Russell. Unsubscribe. Yeah, I did read this. Damn, JV wasn't open. So thank you, everybody, for all the super chats we receive. Any final words, Kit? And then Keaton, and then I'm going to go ahead and close the stream.
Definitely Hardlands Media. We're live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Central. So start your morning right and righteously angry. Pour some whiskey in your coffee, grab a mimosa, smoke a bowl, do some shrooms, some cocolis, whatever you need to do to get you through hump day tomorrow. So tune in with Hardlands Media, 9 a.m. Central. We'll see you all there.
And Kit.
Lauren Boebert, a ray of light in these dark times.
Yes.
And,
I can
was
fix
a
her.
I was a little disappointed that we didn't have more love for her with the super chats, but you should try to find it within yourself to see the best in everybody. And so, if I could leave you with a message, I would say, go back and watch that video a few times over. But we will be live tomorrow at 8 p.m. with Russell live from Greece. So that's what we got going on this week. And then we have Danny Haifon co-hosting with us on Friday morning, 9 a.m.
Oh, that's going to be great.
For Morning Dew. That should be fun. So
Good.
That's going to be
thank
great.
you guys. It was great seeing you gentlemen again. It's been a while since I've been on.
Yeah, it hasn't been seen in a while.
Yeah.
I wonder, my closing comments, gentlemen, I'll put you in the back, but my closing comments is, I wonder if Crystal Ball got upset about that tweet. Their husband and wife. I wonder, is that anything that would make a wife jealous for him?
Yeah,
I
I'm be surprised.
I don't know. I'm just asking.
It could.
That would make a wife jealous. So
it very well could, because she'd probably be like, "Hey, Kyle, remember when I told you that you can grab my boob?" Like, I don't know. She could say something like that to him. I don't know.
all right.
They could have some real kink play, like, "Hey, Mother Sunday" or something. I don't know, man. Like, things are out there.
All right. I'll put you guys in the back, and everybody watching. Thank you. Tomorrow, not sure. I did 2 shows today. Not sure I'm gonna have it in me tomorrow to do another show. Might be a little tired. I did 2 today. Make sure you check out both streams. But regardless, actually, let me share. Maybe I have a closing video I can spring up here. Oh yeah, this one right here. Let's close this one. I could have added this with the segment, but we'll use this one as a closing video. This is Nick.
So we had a climate march in New York where a bunch of climate activists was demanding that we end fossil fuels and for Joe Biden to declare a climate emergency. We demand that Joe Biden end fossil fuels and declare a climate emergency, or we will vote for him again. Fam, this was a glorified DNC event. You had the Sunrise Movement that was there, who sheep-herded young climate activists into the Democratic Party, and they were notorious Biden supporters. Fam, they had one of the biggest sellouts of our generation at the event, AOC, and they treated her like a rock star.
We organize out of hope. We organize out of commitment. We organize out of love. We organize out of the beauty of our future.
We organize around the Nord Stream pipeline bomber. Hey, AOC, I'm still waiting for you to answer this question. What is the carbon footprint of the Ukraine proxy war that you continue to vote to fund? Joe Biden is the biggest eco-terrorist in modern human history after blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline. Anyone who endorsed Joe Biden should not be allowed at this event. The fact that we have climate activists that continue to prop up the DNC, AOC, and refuse to call out the military-industrial complex shows that they truly don't believe in what they are saying and hurts the legitimacy of their movement.